Hello. Good morning. Hello, Queen. Mama. Frazzled. Good to see you. How are we doing today? I was thinking maybe really quick, I might play Hidden True Crime. She had a really good lunchtime live yesterday. I kind of wanted to play that for you guys really quick before we get started, if you guys are okay with that. Hello, Mama. She was really pissed about yesterday, too. And I just love what she talked about. Oh, what did you say? Oh, you sent me a text? Okay, I will have to check my phone. Just a second. Thank you. Thanks, Queen. Okay, I will check that.
Okay, looks like we're live. Looks like my wireless works faster here at my house than it does on Ada County's courtroom steps. So we're good to go. I'm going to. I had to calm myself down a little bit. I'll be honest. Before I jumped on this lunch live, I am beside myself and in shock. I'm livid. I don't even know what to say. And what I'm referring to is the defense's idea that it was okay to body shame our Tammy Daybell. I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. But first, I want to share what else happened before we get to that really important thing. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to be honest. So we're watching, it's day 10, and this is all about Tammy Daybell. We start with the coroner, Brenda Dye. She continued from yesterday, and Brenda
Good morning,
is
try me.
sharing that she has regrets. We learned again. I shared this during the recess.
Don't you love how what she's saying here?
We learned some new things about Tammy Daybell's autopsy. We learned that she had stomach contents, that her stomach was full when Chad Daybell told Brenda Dye that she had thrown up severely and had a coughing fit. But that didn't seem to be the case. We learned that all of her organs were incredibly healthy, despite Chad Daybell telling Brenda Dye that her blood pressure was low, that she was getting weak, that she was losing strength, that she was fainting, and they chalked it up to heart failure, where it looks like her heart was just fine. The only organ that Tammy Daybell had problems with was her lungs. And why? Well, even at the autopsy, she still had, her lungs were full of the red foam, which is blood. They were full, they were damaged, they were hurt. She had bruises on her arms. We didn't know that from last year, but we learned a little bit more from the autopsy about just how deep those bruises were, that wasn't just a bump on a cupboard. They were
exactly frazzled. Yep.
Bruises. These were heartbreaking things, but also really damning things for Chad Daybell. Of course, John Pryor got up and does what he always does. And he gave, I hate to say this, he gave a hell of a defense, but he also...
I just really like the way she says exactly what I think.
And this is where I'm really upset. In my opinion, he's doing things that aren't fair. He's actually being argumentative. He's writing a narrative. And what is making me really angry, I'm going to be honest, because I'm feeling angry and I'm just going to share. That's the beauty of a lunch live. I can't even regroup before I do these. This is me before
funny.
I go home and drink some water. I'm really frustrated with the prosecution. I'm wondering where their oomph is. I'm wondering where their fight is for Tammy Daybell. Maybe maybe Wixom's just a terrible public speaker, but give us something. Where's the passion? I don't know, like, or just how about an objection when John Pryor is arguing and setting a narrative? Every time the prosecution threw in an objection, it was sustained by the judge when it comes to John Pryor being argumentative. And John Pryor didn't even argue. He's like, okay, I'll lean back and I'll stop. John Pryor knows what he's doing too. He's just waiting for the prosecution to object. And I don't know. I'm frustrated.
No,
really
I get what
the
you're saying,
evidence
Gerri,
is
totally.
solid. The evidence is so good, but they are letting, in my opinion, John Pryor just have at it in the courtroom. They're like, go for it, dude. Set your narrative. Yell. He was treating Brenda Dye like she was the murderer, like she broke the law, like she should be sent to jail. And nobody objected. They did finally, and the judge sustained it as quickly as they said objection. But it is maddening for me to watch.
Right.
And
yeah, I
this is what I've
agree.
been feeling. And I just want you to know that John came out, my husband John, and he was watching. And he validated everything that I'd been feeling. And it was so frustrating. So I was already upset about that. I was already angry about that. And let me remind everyone again to where I'm coming from. I have seen the death photos of Tammy Daybell. I wish I could say I hadn't, but I have seen them. And I think it's really important right now to bear witness to the fact that I have seen those, because I need to tell you that what I saw was traumatic, and that Tammy was crisscross on her bed with the mattress halfway off with pink foam running out of her mouth. She was in her sacred religion.
No, I know what you're saying. She is very beautiful. She doesn't need to do that. I understand that. But I'm not going to say I wouldn't if I could, probably. But I don't, yeah, it's obvious at this point.
Just garments. At least it was either the top or the bottom. A pajama top or bottom on the other. I can't remember which is which. And she, I just want to say this, is thin and fit. Tammy Daybell. I wish that she could have had that privacy and that she deserved, and the dignity she deserved of not being like that on her marital bed in her home. But unfortunately, someone took her life. And the jury and the gallery last year saw these photos, and I saw them. And I saw just how fit she is and was at the time of her death. So John Pryor comes along, and let me remind you that this defense is put on. I tell you how involved Chad is in his defense. I tell you, Chad Daybell is there with John Pryor telling him everything. We know that John Pryor's fat. Okay, I'm going to say, I don't mean to disparage anyone, John Pryor, but let me just lay it out for you. And you know what? I don't judge John Pryor because of that. I've never brought that up. But you know what? Gloves are off. We know that. It's a fact if we're going to look at the evidence. So John Pryor gets up after talking to Chad, his potato client, and this is the exact quote. He says to the woman who's explaining that Tammy Daybell is an incredible clogger, that she is in shape, that she is fit. And John Pryor gets up and he says, now, I don't want to, here's the exact quote, I don't want to disparage anybody, but would you describe Tammy's figure as being a body of someone who is extremely fit? Oh, and when he said, and when you start with, I don't mean to disparage anyone, you know that he's about to disparage someone. That's the same as our wonderful Southern women saying, I don't mean to be rude, but, bless your heart. We know what that means when you start a sentence with, I don't mean to disparage anyone. It means he's about to disparage someone. And then he goes on to say, but would you describe Tammy's figure as a body of someone who is extremely fit? Well, first off, she is, because I witnessed Tammy the day she died. And she is extremely fit. In clothes she probably wishes no one would see her in, let alone be murdered in. And so she is fit and she is thin. And for Chad to sit there, and let me tell you something else that I know. Heather Daybell told me and us that Chad Daybell himself complained of Tammy gaining weight, that she had gained weight. This was a thin woman. And you know what? I'm sure she fluctuated like we all do. Oh, I fluctuate. You know what's happened to me? Every day, by the way, I'm just going to use this for a little bit. Every day I get really mean comments saying how I've gotten fillers or Botox or my face looks different or what am I doing or I must be getting plastic surgery on a sidebar.
Oh,
Yeah, guess what? I've lost 20 pounds this year. My brother's in a coma, my mother-in-law died, and my mother is essentially in hospice. So you know what? We all fluctuate. Life. You marry someone who loves you for you. You marry someone where when you're 20 or 30.
I was just going to say. Oh, my God.
30 pounds bigger, you still love each other and you don't judge and you're going through a time in your life. Our bodies, as I always say, they are not ornaments, they are tools and they go up and down. I don't know Tammy's life and we don't even need to assess it, but she was a thin, fit woman and I have never seen her looking otherwise. Her husband,
Hello, Life with Mommy.
He has the nickname Potato and Slug, I think, for a reason. With jailhouse food, he's lost a little bit of weight, I think. But do not body shame our Tammy Daybell after what you did to her. And then to have that publicly shame her, you know exactly what kind of husband Chad Daybell was. Here's some more from him. Then we get to the high fitness exercise class. I want to tell you right now, I could never do a high fitness exercise class. Do you know what those are? Burpees, right. High jumps. It's intense. There's a reason why it's called high intense fitness. So next witness, Pryor keeps going. Hey, so how would you, so this is Pryor. Hey, so how would you evaluate if you were able to make a determination? Would you say that Tammy Daybell was very fit? Witness, yes. Pryor, so she had low body fat. She had a petite figure. Is that what you're telling me? Witness, well, you don't have to have a low body fat or petite figure to be highly fit. But let me just say, by the way, she was fit. What I have observed is that she had the stamina from the time she started to the fall that she passed. She had a stamina to be able to complete those rigorous workouts.
Yep, you guys are good.
What they're trying to do with her body is disgusting to me. She was murdered. Her death certificate says, or her cause of death says suffocation by asphyxiation. This is a man who was allegedly crying yesterday. Chad Daybell allegedly crying yesterday, listening to his 911 call saying his wife of 30 years of 5 children, who birthed him 5 children through 5 pregnancies, was dead. And now we're here today and he's allowing his defense attorney to size up her body mass, to judge her, to get the witnesses to say, yeah, she was chubby. Really? If you want to know who Chad Daybell is and what kind of husband he was, look no further. And he feels good about this defense. Trust me. He's solid with this defense. Chad Daybell's like, yeah, my wife that was murdered, she wasn't all that. She wasn't that fit, let alone that she's doing burpees and clogging. Oh, we also learned that the high fitness class, which I could never do, that the high fitness class, we actually went from Zumba to the high fitness class. This might be one of the most fit people I've ever heard of. And she's almost 50 years old. I can't do that in my 40s. I couldn't do it in my 30s. In fact, I joke, maybe I should try to start, going on a walk around the block again. It's been a rough year. I'm working on it. My health is something right. I need to work on.
I love what she's saying. That's why I wanted to play this.
If you wonder about those tears yesterday at court, look no further to how they're treating Tammy today, that they're going to focus on her body. This is a man that we know cheated on her. He's not even denying that in this court case. Chad Daybell is not denying that he cheated on Tammy during this trial. We know that. He's like, yeah, with this hot blonde, Mrs. Texas. Stop calling her Miss Texas. It was Mrs. Texas, which anyone can do. I could go become Mrs. Nevada right now if I wanted to. Although I don't have a turquoise bikini. So this is a man who cheated on his beautiful wife, his stunning wife with 5 children, who ran the publishing company, who worked full-time as a librarian, who gave the family insurance, who ran the house, who he chastised when she wanted to get away and play a video game on her phone, who had depression and anxiety. We wonder why. And they're getting together, John Pryor and Chad Daybell are getting together and saying, you know what, we should really let people know that she wasn't up to par in how she was with her body, that she did not look extremely fit. I mean, and maybe this is why I had to cheat with her. He is showing zero remorse. He's doing the opposite by doing this. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I am going to take off. Yeah, and let's not forget that menopause is something every woman goes through, and anemia is probably something the majority of women deal with at one point in their life. Right? Right. And to the people, by the way, thank you to someone who said on the chat, Lauren, I love that you haven't gotten ready for the day today and you're still going live at lunch. I don't care. Yeah, you're right. Like, but you know what? Women can't win. I'll just say that women can't win. I look like this and people are like, why don't you get ready a little bit more? Why don't you show some care? I get all dolled up and I put my lipstick on, or I, get my lash extensions and I get my Botox, because who doesn't love Botox? Yeah, I get it. And then shame on me for caring about how I look. Women can't win. So I just think, and now we have a woman who's been murdered, who they're talking about as being murdered, and they're going to body shame her in court. Her husband that cheated on her. So can we just, as women, for Tammy Daybell, if nobody else, as women, we need to be kinder to one another. Whatever we choose to do, Botox or not, hair blown out or not, eyelash extensions or not, lipstick or not, our bodies are tools that I am so grateful for. They're not objects to be judged. And and I just hope this community can also do a little bit better, and maybe have it be done in the memory of Tammy Daybell, because I am so angry today. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to stick with you guys. I'm going to miss the end of court because I'm going to be flying back to be there, to continue to bear witness to this trial. But I just hope that the prosecution will step it up. Lindsay Blake, you're awesome. They've been doing a great job and they're bringing the evidence. I don't want to disparage prosecution. They're doing great. But I'm just angry, and I just hope that we get the justice that's deserved for Tammy Daybell.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I really liked that. Oh, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Who the hell? Who the hell? Who the hell? Okay, it looks like we're in the right position now. I think we're in the right place. So I will get this started. I'll never get face fillers, but as a woman, I also won't try to. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of bad about judging people, but I judge people for what they look like in the inside. But anyway, yeah, I get it. I feel you, sister. All right, I will get this started. Filler hurts like hell. I'll just be wrinkly. My wrinkles are really starting to bother me these days. But, I mean, not to the point that I'm going to be whatevsies. Oh, I'm not sharing it. What the hell, Jackie? Get your shit together. Oh, goodness.
All right, please.
What works? Well, I have no idea what. Oh, okay. I'm like, I misunderstood what you're saying. All right. Let's get it on.
Here's our President County for your honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bailiff, please be seated. All right, good morning. We're back on the record on case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We're continuing evidence in the state's case in chief. We left off yesterday with Detective Kamanu on the stand in direct examination. I believe the state's still proceeding with more direct. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, if you'd like to continue with testimony, Detective Kamanu is here. You can go ahead and take the stand and we'll allow you to continue on direct. I will note also, I received all of the juror affirmations and the jury is all here properly seated. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, for continuing to follow the court's instructions as you retire home each night. And with that, Ms. Blake, once you're ready, you can continue with your direct.
Your Honor, may I be handed back State's Exhibit 107B?
Yes.
Detective Kamanu, when we left off yesterday, we had been talking about some searches linked to a Homer J. Maximus account. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And you had prepared an exhibit summarizing some of the searches that you located on that account. Is that correct?
yes,
Your Honor, I believe we left off with the state having asked permission to publish State's 107B.
Yeah, we had the tech issue. I believe and hope that's all been sorted out. They worked on it for a while, so I think we've got things working. If those monitors don't work also, please make an indication, jurors, and you can publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may have just a moment, let's see if I can get this fixed.
What are they doing? What the hell are they doing? That is hilarious. Mr. Snotty will not use any lotion at all. Like, wow. What the fuck are they doing here?
8th, 2019.
And can you remind the jurors when the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell occurred?
October 9th, 2019.
Hey,
What is
Sicilian.
it about these searches on October 8th that caught your attention?
These searches, Alex Googled the 100-yard drop to 200 and 100 to 300.
And
yes, I love
when we
witch
talk
hazel.
about a drop, can you
I have it in
explain
every
what that
form.
is?
During shooting and
I
sighting
love
your
that stuff.
rifle with your scope, depending on how far you're out in yardage, a lot
That's
of
funny.
times you will dial in that scope to a precise point of impact of your bullet. The drop of the bullet, the further you're out, the drop of the bullet tends to go down a little bit.
So essentially the idea being that from where you're standing, that's going to be where the bullet will go and where it will ultimately land or hit a target.
Correct.
And also in there, it looks like it was a 6.5 Grendel specifically.
Yes.
What kind of gun was recovered from an apartment associated with Alex Cox?
Alexander Arms 6.5 Grendel.
And then it looks like there's another date on there, October 9th of 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's some additional searches there. What about those caught your attention?
He searches just different uppers for ARs, muzzle energy brake of a 6.5 Grendel, and frog sizing of frog tog pants.
And breaking those down a little bit and actually going back to October 8th, was there anything else other than it being the 6.5 Grendel that stood out to you with these particular searches?
Not at this time to me, no.
And then on the October 9th, we've talked about the 6.5
Oh my God, I did not
Grendel.
know,
What
but
about the
doesn't
frog
surprise me.
tog sizing caught your attention?
He's so stupid.
There were some frog togs purchased on this same day at a different location.
Wow, he's gross.
And from your investigation, did you learn anything in relation to where those frog togs may have been purchased?
Yes.
And where was that?
Sportsman's Warehouse in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Did you learn anything in relation or review anything in relation
Oh,
to
good to
where a
see you,
device associated with Alex Cox was located that same day?
Yes.
And where was that?
Sportsman's
right back
Warehouse
to you,
in Idaho
girlfriend.
Falls, Idaho.
Do you know what color those frog tog pants were?
Black.
And then when we go to the next slide, can you read the date of these searches into the record?
October 10th, 2019.
And can you explain what about these searches stood out to you?
On this day was after the attempted shooting on Tamara Daybell. And the next day he is searching if an AR functions in cold weather, how an AR functions in cold weather. Hornady one shot shooting in cold weather. Also had a prep your AR to shoot in cold weather. He also is searching if mag rings shrink in cold weather.
Do you reside around the Fremont County area?
I do.
Have you resided there for some time?
Yes.
What are Octobers generally like in that part of the state?
Microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
Objection, Judge. It's calling for speculation. He's talking in generalities and he has no testimony and knowledge of what the weather was like at any time this particular year.
Your Honor, he testified that he lives in the area and has lived there for some time. I think it would be within his
agree, and
personal knowledge.
I'll overrule.
Thank you. If you can answer.
Can you repeat that?
What are the Octobers generally like in that part of the state?
Octobers get fairly cold in that month. Sometimes prior to that month, Octobers in eastern Idaho are hit and miss.
Do you know what the temperature was on that day?
I believe it was 26 degrees.
Judge, I'd like some foundation as to how he knew that.
Ms. Blake, knowing the precise, I agree, degree temperature would require additional foundation.
Did you do anything to look into what the temperature was that day?
I did.
What did you do?
I Googled and got on to the National Weather Service and put in that date, October 9th, 2019, to see what the temperatures were during that day.
And what were the temperatures?
26 degrees.
And if we go to the next slide, can you read the date of these searches into the record?
October 12th, 2019.
What about these particular searches caught your attention?
So this was after the attempted shooting on October 9th. On this search, he is Googling how to attach a ghillie suit, a cover to a ghillie suit. He's also Googling if a 6.5 Grendel will shoot through a windshield. He Googles the penetration through Dodge Dakota, 2008 Dodge Dakota steel body thickness, the thickness on the doors of a 2008 Dodge Dakota, and the gauge thickness of, or how thick 22 gauge steel is.
And if we break these down a little bit, can you explain what a ghillie suit is?
A ghillie suit's used a lot in the military, snipers. It's a cover that they can use for cover while in the weeds, the brush, the trees, so they're not seen.
And what about a 2008 Dodge Dakota stood out?
Tammy Daybell and Chad Daybell had a 2004 Dodge Dakota registered to them.
And again, a 6.5 Grendel was recovered from an apartment associated with Alex Cox.
Correct.
As part of your investigation, did you also look at some shooting range records?
I did.
Do you recall which shooting range you reviewed records from?
It was a sportsman's club located in St. Anthony, Idaho.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as States Exhibit 396 and 396A. Your Honor, I just handed the bailiff a courtesy copy for defense counsel, a copy for the court, and a courtesy copy for Your Honor.
All right.
And Detective Kamanu, if you just look through those particularly Exhibit 396A. And Your Honor, while he's looking through those, I believe these are a stipulated to exhibit. The first exhibit 396 would be the affidavit of business records, and exhibit 396A would be the actual logs.
That is correct, Judge.
All right, those have been offered now and admitted, so 396 and 396A are both admitted exhibits.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
And Detective, do those appear to be the records that you reviewed?
Yes.
Were you able to determine whether or not it appeared Alex Cox had been at that gun range?
Yes.
And what did you determine?
Alex Cox didn't sign in as Alex Cox on these sheets. He did sign in as C. Quint, which C. Quint, or I should say C.P. Quint, is the license plate on his Ford F-150 truck. So on the sign-on sheet, the only letter that's missing in that is the P.
And were you able to determine how many times this C. Quint or Alex Cox had visited that gun range?
Yes,
How many times had he visited?
5 times through October 7th to the 15th of 2019.
And again, the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell was which day?
October 9th, 2019.
And what day was Tammy Daybell pronounced dead?
October 19th, 2019.
As part of your investigation, did you also review some data recovered from a phone associated with Tammy Daybell?
I did.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as States Exhibit 108. It is a affidavit of business records in relation to Tammy Daybell's phone.
Thank you.
Give us a moment, Miss Blake. We're gonna verify the number here. I think we've already got 108 admitted.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Yes, actually, let me have the bailiff hand you the admitted exhibit for your review. Yeah.
All right, Your Honor, I think we have sorted that out. So State's Exhibit 108 was already admitted.
I would hope so. You know how many hearings they have to go with this shit? Seriously.
The state would ask to have the witness shown State's Exhibit 291. Do you recall reviewing that particular email?
Yes, I do.
And Your Honor, there is a stipulation to admit the contents of Tammy Daybell's phone. This is one of the items retrieved from her phone. So the state would move for admission of Exhibit 291.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 291 is admitted.
And Your Honor, the state would ask for permission to publish.
You can publish.
And Detective, are you able to see who sent this email?
Yes.
And who was that?
Tammy Daybell from tammy.daybell@gmail.com.
And are you able to see who it was sent to?
Yes.
And who is that?
Mark Daybell at mark.daybell@missionary.org.
And can you see the date that this shows it as having been sent?
Yes. On 10/13/2019 at 2:38, or correction, 2:23:18.
And Your Honor, I'm going to pause to allow the jurors to read.
Okay, thank you.
And Detective, this was sent just 4 days after that attempted shooting. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when we look at that second paragraph, are you able to see approximately what time Tammy says she arrived home that night?
Yes, approximately 9:15.
And are you able to see in there, actually, let me back up. Can you read the last couple sentences there, starting with "I looked up"?
I looked up thinking it was Dad or Garth to help me carry stuff in. Nope, it was a guy dressed all in black with a ski mask on, pointing a rifle at me.
And Your Honor, again, I'm going to pause to allow the jurors to read. And Detective Kamanu, could you read the paragraph starting with, "I think I was," that first full paragraph into the record?
I think I was a bit in shock because I just said, "What do you think you were doing?" Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top. The guy started pulling the trigger, and I could hear the clicking and whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun. He stayed standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. For some reason, I just kept asking him what he thought he was doing. At that point, I was actually more annoyed than scared because he was standing between me and the door, and he didn't step towards me or even say anything. The scared part came after, when my brain thought of things that could have happened.
And Your Honor, again, I'm going to pause to allow the jurors to read.
All right.
And Detective Kamanu, could you read the last sentence of that second paragraph, starting with "on Thursday night"?
On Thursday night, though, I didn't go to Zumba because I was quite understandably did not want to be out after dark alone.
And I'm going to go back to that paragraph that we were looking at previously. In there, Tammy refers to the paintball gun as a rifle. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she specifically references a hopper.
Yes.
And that's in reference to why she thought it was maybe a paintball gun.
Yes.
She also indicates the guy started pulling the trigger. Is that correct?
Yes.
In this, do you see where she indicates that she was scared?
Yes.
And in that last sentence that we just talked about, she indicated she was scared to go out alone the next night.
Yes.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask to publish State's Exhibit 281A. It was admitted yesterday.
Okay, you can publish it.
And Detective, we talked about this firearm yesterday. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And where was this recovered from?
This was recovered from Alex Cox's apartment.
And can you remind the jurors what type of firearm this is?
This is an Alexander Arms 6.5 Grendel.
And I think you have a pointer up there. But when we just looked at that email from Tammy, she specifically references a hopper, or what she thought might be a hopper on the firearm. Can you again explain where on this firearm, if this were a paintball gun, where the hopper would be located?
Again, like I was referencing yesterday, the scope is on the top of the rail of the gun right here. On a paintball gun, it comes off right on the side and up right there.
So the hopper would be around the same location as this scope.
Yes.
We saw some searches about drilling a baffle to make a suppressor. Can you talk a little bit about what a suppressor is?
A suppressor is a device that can be screwed onto the end of rifles, handguns, miniguns that will make the bullet coming out quiet. Sometimes people make homemade suppressors, which they have to drill holes. And you can also buy those legally.
Where on the firearm would you attach the suppressor?
The suppressor is attached right on the end of the barrel right there.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 281C, if I can have the detective shown a copy.
You may.
Detective, do you recognize that photo?
Yes,
And did you in fact take that photo?
yes.
And what is it a photo of?
This is the photo of the end of the rifle.
A close-up photo?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would move for admission of State's Exhibit 281C.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
Exhibit 281C is admitted.
Your Honor, may I have permission to publish?
Yes.
And officer or detective, can you tell us what we're seeing on the end of that gun?
So at the end of the rifle right there, it's threaded. A lot of times there's muzzle brakes on there, or you can take that muzzle brake off and thread a suppressor onto that.
Detective Kamanu, through your investigation, did you learn anything in relation to whether or not Alex Cox was in the area of the Daybell residence on October 9th?
Yes.
And what did you learn?
A device associated with Homer J. Maximus.
Judge, foundation.
Let's Blake.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Kamanu, as part of your investigation, did you review reports of other investigators?
Yes.
And did you discuss the matter with other investigators?
Yes.
And through your discussion and review, did you learn anything or review anything in relation to the location of a device associated with Alex Cox on October 9th of 2019?
Yes.
Did you learn anything in relation to a device being in the area of the Daybell residence?
Yes.
What did you learn?
On October 9th, 2019, a device that was associated with Alex Cox, known as Homer J. Maximus, was located going up and turning next to the Daybell residence and driving and making a turn and going back around the Daybell residence. This time frame was about 4:55 p.m. to 5:03 p.m.
So 4 hours or so before the attempted shooting.
Yes.
And later in the day, that same device was at Sportsman's Warehouse in Idaho Falls. Is that correct?
Yes.
Detective Kamanu, are you aware if any paintball guns were located in the residence associated with Alex Cox?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware if there were any other calls on October 9th that you found in relation to anyone else reporting a masked man pointing a rifle at them?
I did not find any.
You aware of any other reports around that time about a masked man pointing a paintball gun at anyone?
No.
So to the best of your knowledge, this was an isolated incident around this time?
Yes.
Do you recall reviewing anything in relation to some geofence location data?
Yes.
What dates did you review that in relation to?
I got those geofence warrants through October 18th into October 19th, 2019,
And again, what day was Tammy pronounced deceased?
October 19th, 2019.
Did you end up receiving responsive data in relation to the geofence?
I did.
Which specific locations did you ask for that data for October 18th to October 19th?
I did two fences, one located at 202 North, 1900 East, which is Chad and Tammy Daybell's residence. And then I did another one at 3462 Salem Highway, which is the LDS church, just 2.6 miles south of the Daybell residence.
And with those geofence warrants, were you looking for a specific perimeter radius on those?
Yes, I did 150 meters.
And can you tell us a little bit about what data you initially got back in your request to those?
So when I requested information for data on any device coming through those through the geofences, I got a response from Google with a bunch of Google identification numbers.
What did you then do with those identification numbers? Can you talk us through that process?
So when we write a warrant like that, Google will send back the numbers that have been going through or through the geofences. They don't come back with any names. And so we then have to write another warrant with those numbers to try and find out the associated name to those devices or those numbers.
Did you locate some specific numbers that you did something with?
I did.
How many numbers caught your attention in that initial response?
So the time I had the geofence warrants up, there were 4 numbers that had gone through both geofence warrants or locations.
Did you do anything to follow up on those 4 numbers?
I did.
What did you do?
I met with Detective Stubbs, who at the time worked with Rexburg PD, and he has knowledge on how the geofence works. And we went through the numbers. 2 of the numbers,
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There hasn't been sufficient foundation to where this knowledge has come from. I've been somewhat patient.
Sustained.
Detective Kamanu, did you send in a second search warrant in relation to these geofence?
yes,
And did you receive responsive information?
yes,
And how many numbers did you request additional information for?
4.
And you were talking about having met with Detective Stubbs. Did Detective Stubbs initially recognize anything about those 4 numbers?
Judge, objection, that would call for hearsay.
Sustained.
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Well, I would re-ask. I think it was just going to elicit hearsay.
Did you learn anything in relation to those 4 numbers prior to getting the second return?
I did. Yes.
And what did you learn?
Judge, again, it may call for hearsay.
Your Honor, this goes for why the officer did what he did next in his investigation, not for the truth of the matter.
Overruled. You can answer.
I learned that one of the numbers that had come back in my geofence warrant, Detective Stubbs already had that number, which was associated with Alex Cox on a different warrant that Detective Stubbs had wrote and got information back.
And in relation to the other 3 numbers, did you end up receiving responsive data on who those devices were associated with?
I did.
Did you do follow-up on that?
I got a hold of 2 of them. One of them I could not get a hold of.
What were you able to determine in relation to those other 3 numbers?
One of them lives in the Parker area, which is north of Chad Daybell's residence. And the other one lives on Trapper Lane, which is also north of the Daybell residence.
So would it have been normal for their devices to be in that area?
Yes.
In relation to the device associated with Alex Cox, what did you learn regarding that device?
The device that was associated with Alex Cox and Homer J. Maximus, and looking through the data, the night of October 18th, 2019, that device was at the Salem Church at 10:04 that night, or 10:05 p.m.
Sometime just after 10?
Correct.
Do you know how long the device showed as being located in that vicinity?
In correctional time, I believe it was 10:07 p.m. and it showed him there until 10:45 p.m.
And when we're talking about a geofence warrant, do you know what type of data they're looking at as far as placing a device there?
I believe that is off Wi-Fi and GPS.
So with the geofence, it's located there until 10:45 p.m. of October 18th, correct?
Correct.
Did you learn anything else in relation to that device as far as any later time that night?
That device shuts off or goes dormant and is no longer there. And it is later picked up at 11:53, roughly 7 miles south of the church.
Judge, could we identify what church he's talking about?
And is this the same church that you previously referenced?
Correct, the Salem Church.
And again, how far is the Salem Church from the Daybell residence?
2.6 miles.
So we know a device associated with Alex Cox is there from 10:07 to 10:45 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
And from there, we're not sure where the device is
Correct.
until 11:53 p.m.
Correct.
And at 11:53 p.m., can you remind us again where that's located?
It was located about 7 miles south of the Salem Church on Highway 20.
Through your investigation, did you learn who the last person besides Chad Daybell to see Tammy would have been?
Garth Daybell.
And through your investigation, did you learn where Garth Daybell was on the night of October 18th of 2019? Or yeah, October 18th of 2019?
He was at work.
Through your investigation, did you learn if he was at work all night?
I believe he got off around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Do you know where he was working?
He worked at that time. He was working at the Haunted Mill.
And what is the Haunted Mill?
It's October. The Haunted Mill is a haunted, scary attraction.
And it's seasonal.
Seasonal, yes.
When you looked at that geofence, did you get any return on a device associated with Chad Daybell?
No,
Not at either location.
no.
Did you later learn where Chad had indicated he was on October 18th into the morning hours of October 19th?
From other deputies' reports, he had told them that he had been home.
And yet no device was located in relation to Chad Daybell.
Correct.
So in your review, there's location data placing a device associated with Alex Cox near the Daybell residence on October 9th of 2019, correct?
Yes,
And on the night of October 18th of 2019?
yes.
Were you able to find any connection between Alex Cox and Tammy Daybell?
No,
Were you able to determine who Alex Cox knew in that area?
at that time, no. The only person that I was aware of would be Chad Daybell.
Through your investigation, did you become aware of some emails from Charles Vallow that he'd sent to an email that he sent to Tammy Daybell?
Yes,
Did you also become aware of an email Charles Vallow sent to Chad Daybell?
yes.
Do you recall what the content or what the gist of the email that he sent to Tammy was about?
The email that was sent to Tammy was on June 29th, 2019. And Charles was reaching out to her school address, email address, and telling her that he had some information about an affair going on. He didn't go into too much detail because he didn't want to explain all that over email, and left Tammy his number to have Tammy call him.
And through your investigation, were you ever able to determine whether or not Tammy Daybell had contact with Charles Vallow?
I was not able to confirm that.
And in relation to the email Charles sent to Chad Daybell, do you recall the gist or content of that?
Yes.
And what was that about?
So Charles sent on the same day an email to Chad, telling Chad that he was aware of what was going on between him and his wife, and Chad needed to tell his wife, or Charles was going to expose them. He was also aware that Lori had sent him some dance videos of her, and that was inappropriate.
Through your investigation, did you learn whether Chad and Lori were married?
Yes.
And what did you learn?
I learned that they got married November 5th, 2019.
And again, Tammy Daybell was pronounced dead on October 19th of 2019.
Yes.
Do you know when her funeral was?
October 22nd, 2019.
So just 3 days later.
Yes.
And I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Cross-examination.
Judge, would you like me to start or do you want to take a break?
Why don't you go ahead and start, and we'll take a break here in about 20 minutes or so, if that works. Can we have the microphone, please?
Officer, if you would allow me to either call you Officer K, or I'm going to mispronounce your name for the next 20, 25 minutes.
That Officer K is okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, officer, you took the liberty of, let me find this. Going through talking about, your report, about the emails between, Michael and Penny, is that right?
Yeah,
I believe that was exhibit 291. If I got 291.
Yeah. Have the bailiff. You or to the witness prior.
Okay. Judge, just publish.
You may publish that.
And officer, if you could tell me the date of that email.
10/13/2019.
Okay. And then that was obviously Dear Markey, that would be Tammy's son.
Yes,
Okay. And the very first sentence, it said, on Wednesday during the day, a lady pulled into the Price's driveway, grabbed their dog, drove off, right?
yes,
Then she went on to talk about what transpired about that and about where they tried to locate where the lady lived. Is that fair?
yes,
Okay. Now, from your investigation, were you able to determine where Regan Price lives?
yes.
Where's Regan Price live?
Regan Price lives directly south of Chad Daybell's house.
Okay. And then that would be directly east of Joe Murray's house.
Correct. Yes,
So if we have if we can visualize this, we have Chad Daybell's property. And approximately how big is Chad Daybell's property? Do you know?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. It's a more than an acre.
Yes,
Okay. And directly across the street from Chad Daybell's property is another house, correct?
yes,
And then kitty corner to the south and to the west would be Joe Murray, right?
yes,
And directly southeast of Chad's property would be Regan Price. Would that be fair?
yes,
Okay, so 4 houses all kitty corner from each other, and this is more of a rural setting. Would you agree with that?
yes,
And the houses are all on larger plots of property, correct?
yes,
But the houses themselves are relatively close in terms of location. Would you agree with that?
yes,
All of the houses on that particular corner, we heard on the 911, there was something about a flashing yellow light. And on that very corner, that's where all the 4 residences are located, pretty much on the corner of each of those, that intersection, right?
yes,
Okay, so relatively close together are these homes that we've established that, right?
yes,
Okay, so one of the close neighbors is this lady by the name of Regan Price, correct?
yes.
And she talked about how somebody pulled into their driveway and grabbed their dog. Do you recall when that took place?
Well, in this email, she's writing it on the 13th about the night of the attempted shooting. So I'm assuming it was on the 9th.
Okay, so if you look at the very first line to her, she's writing this on the 13th to her son, which was a short time after the paintball incident. She says on Wednesday, during the day with Reagan outside. So can we presume that it was that Wednesday of that week?
Yes,
Okay, so at that point, somebody grabbed Regan Price's dog, took off, stole the dog, and disappeared, correct?
yes,
And then now she says on the same day, you look down below to the second paragraph, right? You see that?
Yep. yes,
She was coming home from clogging. It was about 9:15 and she backed into the driveway. Okay, so the nose of her car was facing out of the driveway, correct?
yes,
Now, what I'd like to know is, you've been out to the house, right?
yes.
And how long of a driveway is that?
The front driveway, and I haven't measured it, but maybe,
I can make it easier for you if we could do it in
Yeah.
terms of an analysis. Would you be able to park 3 cars back to back in that driveway and not have any of them sticking out into the road?
maybe 2.5 to 3. Yeah,
Okay, 2.5 to 3 cars maybe,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so and from your experience as a police officer, do you know the length of what the average automobile would be?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, but if we took the size of an average automobile and we multiplied it times 2.5, that's how much space we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And if you were looking at this bench in front of us, how many cars would you say were the jury sitting? How many cars could you push back to back in front of this bench?
Probably about 2.
Okay, so if we're asking about 2.5, would it be fair to say that the driveway was from the end of that bench to where this officer is?
Possibly.
Okay, so that's the length of the driveway. And at that point, from what I understand, according to this document to Mark, she was getting some items out of the back seat and realized someone was at the back of the car. So she backed her car in and someone was behind her car. That would be near the garage. Is that the way you're reading that?
Behind her car, yes.
Okay, so someone was behind her car near the garage. She looked up thinking it was Dad or Garth to help her. Nope, it was a guy dressed in black with a ski mask on, pointing a rifle at me. And she did say the word rifle, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay. Then she went on to talk about that she was in shock because what do you think you were doing? Then the next line was starting with then. Would you read that next line for me?
Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top.
Okay. Now, you know what a hopper is, right?
Yes.
You've seen a hopper?
Yes.
You know a hopper is different than a rifle scope, right?
Yes.
And you know that, Judge, I'm gonna. So in any event, you know that a hopper is a little different than a rifle scope, right?
Yes.
And you know that a hopper is a large composite of some kind container, right?
It's a plastic container.
A big
Yes.
plastic container, right?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that it would be very difficult to confuse a hopper with a rifle scope, right?
I wouldn't agree with you on that if you're
Okay.
not sure what a rifle is with a scope on it or a
Okay.
paintball gun with a hopper.
Did you happen to go over the report of Coulter Cannon?
I did.
Did you happen to go over or discuss the case with Coulter Cannon?
A little bit. Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that when Coulter Cannon came up to the residence of Tammy and Chad Daybell, that he went in the house and looked at one of the Google searches that Tammy was performing prior to the police arriving? Do you remember that?
I was not aware of that.
Okay. Or did you happen to look at Tammy's email and searches on that computer to determine whether Tammy had looked at anything prior to the police arriving?
Not on her computer. No.
Okay. Were you aware that Officer Cannon walked up to the computer with Garth Daybell and Tammy Daybell and proceeded to look at pictures of paintball guns?
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that during the Google search by Tammy Daybell, that she pointed to the actual paintball gun that she saw the gentleman holding that day?
I was not aware of that.
Okay. Were you not aware of that because Coulter Cannon didn't include that information in his report well, not in his first report, right? That wasn't included in his first report, was it?
I didn't read that in his report.
Right. You didn't read it in his supplemental report either when he chose to supplement the report, correct?
Correct.
Now, Judge, previously we had stipulated to the admission of Defense Exhibit 14.
Okay, has it been offered or admitted yet, Mr.
I'm
Pryor?
going to offer it now, Judge, and ask that it be admitted. It was agreed to by stipulation.
Has the state reviewed Exhibit 14?
We have, Your Honor, but if I can be reminded of exactly what it is.
It's the Google.
All right.
It's the
Counsel.
searches, yes.
Well, let's do this. I want to go ahead and that may take a moment. I think it's a logical breaking point for our mid-morning recess. So I'll have the state review the exhibit that's been offered during the break. And let's try and come back on the record here in about 25 minutes or so. So about 10:35.
Thank you, Judge.
Put the court together, session.
All right, thank you. Please be seated. We'll have the jurors return to the courtroom, please. Perhaps while we're having the jurors brought in, let's do go on the record, CR 22211623. There was a question on Exhibit 14 and whether or not that would be admitted by stipulation. Did council resolve that?
Your Honor, I have had a chance to review that, and it is data recovered. It's a report referencing data recovered from Tammy Daybell's phone, and the contents of her phone were stipulated to. So we wouldn't have an objection.
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and admit Exhibit 14 once the jurors return, so they hear that.
Judge, I have a picture as well, and the state has a picture of their own. I guess we're going to play dueling pictures. Mine, I'd like to mark as 14A. I don't know what the state would like to have theirs marked as.
Yes, it was the photo that Mr. Pryor showed us and then didn't actually move for admission of because we hadn't seen it before today. We would not object to the admission of that photo.
Can you use the microphone, please? We just got to get the record of this, Mr. Pryor.
And Judge, I also just saw their picture today, so I will stipulate to the admission of their picture as well. But mine is 14A if the bailiff wants to.
All right. Are you requesting that the bailiff retrieve that exhibit so it can be marked?
So it can be marked and accepted, Judge, as 14A.
Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. And we can have the jurors brought in once they're ready.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, please. Here's our President County for you, Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record. The jurors have returned and are properly seated. I'll note the parties were able to review those exhibits and have offered, and at this time the court will admit Defense Exhibit 14 as well as Defendant's Exhibit 14A, both admitted. You can continue with the cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
Judge, if we could put the monitor back up with what I was discussing, which I believe was Exhibit 291. Now, officer, prior to taking our break, I think I was talking about the third paragraph down. And would you do me a favor and read the first two sentences of that?
Are you referring to the one where it says?
I think.
Okay. I think I was a bit in shock because I just said, what do you think you were doing? Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top.
Then the next line says, the guy started pulling the trigger and I could just hear the clicking and whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. He stayed there standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. For some reason, I just kept asking him what he thought he was doing. Now, she did say in the sentence, just pointing the gun at me. And we don't know whether she meant a gun or whether she meant paintball, correct? Because she identified it as a paintball, but she did use the gun on that sentence, correct?
Yes.
But we don't know whether that was a mistake or whether she just decided not to type the word paintball in, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Then I just asked him at what point I was actually more annoyed than scared because he was standing between me and the door and he didn't step toward me or even say anything. Okay. Okay. So from what I understand, when she was backing up, then the front of the door is really right next to the garage, right?
If I remember right, yes, it's a little sidewalk up to the garage or
Yeah.
to the main door.
And that sidewalk's probably less than 5 feet, correct?
I didn't testify that.
It's a short sidewalk.
Okay.
though. Well, not okay. Do you
I
want-
can't testify to that.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's adding facts, not in evidence.
That's sustained. And in addition, please don't talk at the same time as each other. Mr. Pryor, wait for a concluded answer before you ask a new question.
Would you agree that it's a short sidewalk from the gate into the yard to the front door?
It is a short sidewalk, but I can't testify to how long it is.
Okay, that's okay. Now, from this description, this person was standing between the door and the garage at the very back of Tammy's, where Tammy's car was backed in, correct?
Yes,
So in other words, that was something that was at relatively close range. Would you agree with me?
yes,
And in that sense, being at such close range, you'd probably get a pretty good look at what type of instrument was being pointed at you. Would you agree with me in that regard?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Would you agree with me in that regard? When it's something that close to you and you're looking at it, you'd be reasonably certain about what you're looking at, correct?
it was in the daylight.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Now, we can all agree that the manufacturers of paintball guns make them in various shapes and sizes, correct?
yes,
And the manufacturers of these guns get some benefit by making some of these guns look similar to weapons, right? Real weapons.
yes,
And they can make them quite authentic at times, correct?
they can be, yes.
Right. But there is one thing that distinguishes a paintball gun between a real gun, and that is a hopper, correct?
Like you just mentioned before, the manufacturers are coming out with new guns. So yes, a hopper is one, but there's many other ways that paintballs can fit into a rifle without a hopper.
Okay. Okay. So in other words, unless we actually had this weapon in hand, we really don't know which one it is. Would that be fair?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. Now, please correct me if I'm making a mistake, but without a suppressor, a AR-15 is a very, very loud gun, isn't it?
yes,
And even with a suppressor, an AR-15 is not silent. It still makes a pretty loud noise, doesn't it?
it depends what kind of ammunition you're using.
Okay. Well, what kind of ammunition was in
Hey
this gun?
guys,
You don't even know if
sorry.
it was a gun, do you?
You know, it was
Yikes.
a paintball gun or a rifle that she referred to.
Okay. Okay. But depending on the ammunition, there's still going to be a loud
Really
noise.
sorry, I
right?
did fall asleep.
Are you asking with the suppressor on or off?
With the suppressor on, there's still going to be a noise, right?
There will be a noise, but not as loud depending on what
Okay.
ammunition you're using.
Okay. And when you're just several feet from the front door of a house with Garth Daybell and Chad Daybell inside the house, you would think they would have heard a gun. If even with a suppressor, you think they would have heard the rifle shoot, right?
Again, it depends on what ammunition is being
Okay.
shot through the gun.
But what we do know, and what we're certain of, is that when a paintball gun is shot, they can't change the fact that there's a whooshing noise, can they?
There's a popping noise with the clicking,
And a whooshing noise.
whooshing and popping.
Right. Okay. Okay. So when Tammy Daybell in this report talks about the whooshing noise that she heard, sounds like she's describing the whooshing noise from a paintball gun.
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike. Counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Did it sound from this email that Tammy Daybell's describing the whooshing noise of a paintball gun?
She said she heard a clicking and whooshing.
Okay. Okay. Now, we move further down and we talk about where it says the thought crossed my mind to hit him with my clogging shoes. Looked toward the house and yelled, Chad. They ran off around the north side of the house. You see that?
Yes,
Got Dad and Garth. They looked outside, couldn't find him, called the police, reported it. Then she uses the term, they suspect it was a bipolar teenager who lives down the street and walks around a lot, but Matt Price has an even better theory, right?
yes,
Okay. So it's really unclear who they say they suspect it was a bipolar teenager. They don't know if we're talking about the police told them or whether it was Chad and Garth said it was a bipolar teenager. Is that fair?
that's fair.
Okay. So when Officer Coulter was on the stand, I had spoken to him about the fact that in his report, he didn't mention anything about a bipolar teenager running around the neighborhood harassing people. Were you aware of that at the time of this offense?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Were you aware of the fact that there was a bipolar teenager running around the neighborhood? Maybe I want to be careful with my words. Contacting the people in these neighborhoods?
I was not.
Okay. And are you aware whether or not you ever discussed that with Officer Coulter?
I can't recall if I did or not.
Okay. Did you discuss that with any of the other officers who were there at the time of this paintball incident about this bipolar teenager?
I did not.
Okay. Then we go on and we talk about his theory, and his theory is that the crazy dog lady brought her husband back to steal the dog again. They had parked on the road and had snuck through the cow fields, and he was going to cut through our front yard. So that's a couple of things. Park down the road, cut through the cow fields. Is that the Daybell's cow fields?
I can't testify if that's what she's referring to, but
Okay.
there are a couple others out there.
Yeah, but there are cow fields next door to the Daybells. The Daybells have a pasture behind their property as well, correct?
Yes,
And then they said they were going to cut through our front yard. So that would mean Chad and Tammy's front yard, correct?
yes.
When I pulled up and startled him, he didn't know what to do. So he panicked and tried to menace me with his not real gun. So at that point, she's pretty clear that she knows it's a not real gun. Would you disagree with that?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation as to what Tammy knew.
Sustained.
Well, she put in a,
Objection, Your Honor, narrative.
Yeah, Ms. Pryor, I ruled on it.
Okay.
So ask a different question.
so after the line that says it was a not real gun and then ran off back across the field, which would explain why he ran across the side of the house. I never heard a car and we couldn't find anywhere. You see that?
Yes,
And then she wrote, it's actually a pretty good theory. You see that?
yes.
Did you guys interview Regan Price?
We spoke with Regan Price, yes.
Okay. Did you talk to Matt Price?
Yes,
Okay. And did they confirm the fact that someone stole their dog around the close in time to this occurrence?
I'd have to go back to my report. I know we spoke with them after this incident, quite a ways after this.
Okay. But you do know that this incident with the dog, I believe it occurred on the same day that the paintball gun took place. Is that right?
Yes,
And the issues about the bipolar teenager running around the neighborhood, that was close in time as well, correct?
that was Matt's theory, yes.
Okay. And then finally, honestly, would you read the word honestly down to the end of the paragraph?
Honestly, I just kept wondering what kind of person walks around with a ski mask on, carrying an empty paintball gun. Bipolar doesn't mean you want to hurt people, so I'm leaning more towards Matt's theory. The guy didn't try to rob me or even really hurt me. On Thursday night, though, I didn't go to Zumba because I quite understandably did not want to be out after dark alone.
So in this particular incident, it's saying that I'm leaning towards Matt's theory. The guy didn't try to rob me, or the guy didn't try to hurt me. So she wasn't threatened by someone holding a paintball gun like a rifle, right?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation and mischaracterizes this email.
Sustained.
And Judge, I need to go back to I'd like to go back to 232B, and I'd like to republish that for the jury, Judge.
All right, we'll have the bailiff provide that to you, Mr. Pryor.
And Judge, if we could just wait till I get it brought up. I think I'm ready, Judge. Let's hope.
All right, you may.
Second.
Fremont County Sheriff's Office. Hi, I need to report something. Okay, go ahead. What's the address? Okay, it's 202 North, 1900 East, the corner with the blinking yellow light on Salem Highway. Is it a suspicious person? Yes. Okay, what was he wearing? He was all dressed in black and he had a ski mask on.
And he said the blinking light now is where you saw him?
No, he's gone now because I pulled up into our driveway and I was getting stuff out of the backseat of my car and suddenly he was there and he had a paintball gun and he was
Okay.
and like he was going to shoot at me. And I kept asking him what he was doing because I could tell it was a paintball thing.
Okay.
And then he just kept doing it. So I yelled for my husband and then he took off running around the back of my house.
Okay, give me just 1 minute. Stay on the line with me.
Okay.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 28 seconds.
And that was North 1930.
Yes.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 43 seconds.
In what direction he was going?
He went behind my house and it's so dark out here and I just went in the house and got my husband and son and then they went out and looked and he was long gone by then.
Okay.
So he was on the north side of my house is where he went to get away.
Okay.
He didn't say anything or he just kept like he was holding the gun like he was, had a rifle and just shooting at me. So, but nothing came out of the gun either. So I don't think it was loaded.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Chad Daybell.
Okay, I will pass your information on to my deputies. We actually just had a previous call about this individual, so they're out in the area looking now.
Okay, yeah, I think it was my son-in-law who lives diagonal from us that called you guys already.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just wanted to make sure it got reported. So
Let's see. And what's your son-in-law's name?
Joseph Murray.
Okay, yep, it was him.
Okay.
So, all right, I have a deputy that will be out at your home here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
At some point, Judge, I'm also going to need 232.
Into the microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
I'm also going to need 232A at some point, but I'd like to discuss 232B. You listened carefully to the 911 call from Tammy Daybell, is that right?
Yes.
Now, she said paintball a number of times during that 911 call, correct?
A couple times, yes.
And then at the end, she said, holding the gun like he was holding a rifle. She never said he was holding a rifle, did she?
I think you just stated it. He was holding a gun like the rifle.
She never said she was holding a rifle, did she?
Objection, Your Honor. The audio speaks for itself.
Sustained.
There was no discussion about a specific rifle. Was it not the manner in which the gun was being held? That was what we heard?
There's no specific rifle that she named, no.
Okay.
There's no specific rifle that she named.
Okay. Well, she didn't even say it was a rifle, did she?
She said a gun and a rifle.
Well, she said a gun holding like a rifle. Isn't that what she said?
Objection, Your Honor. Again, the audio speaks for itself.
Sustained.
Judge, I should be allowed to go into whether or not the manner in which.
Then replay that section, Mr. Pryor,
Okay.
if you want to make it clear, but to just keep
Okay.
asking on the audio we just listened to is improper.
Bailiff, could I have 232 again, please? I think I want A. Thank you. So Judge, again, we'll ask to publish 232A again.
I believe we just published 232B.
Backwards, excuse me.
Okay.
I apologize. I think I'm ready, Judge.
Go ahead.
Second.
Vermont County Sheriff's Office.
Hi, I need to report something.
Okay, go ahead. What's the address?
Okay, at 202 North, 1900 East, the corner with the blinking yellow light on Salem Highway.
Is it a suspicious person?
Yes.
Okay, what was he wearing?
He was all dressed in black and he had a ski mask on.
And he said the blinking light now is where you saw him?
No, he's gone now because I pulled up into our driveway and I was getting stuff out of the backseat of my car and suddenly he was there and he had a paintball gun and he was
Okay.
and like he was going to shoot at me. And I kept asking him what he was doing because I could tell it was a paintball thing.
Okay.
And then he just kept doing it. So I yelled for my husband and then he took off running around the back of my house.
Okay, give me just 1 minute. Stay on the line with me.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 28 seconds.
And that was North 1930.
Yes.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 43 seconds.
What direction he was going?
He went behind my house, and it's so dark out here, and I just went in the house and got my husband and son, and then they went out and looked, and he was long gone by then.
Okay.
So he was on the north side of my house, is where he went to get away.
Okay.
He didn't say anything, or he just kept like he was holding the gun, like he was, had a rifle and was shooting at me. So, but nothing came out of the gun either, so I don't think it was loaded.
What's so sad here is that that's what she thinks because she didn't know that somebody was trying to kill her. That's why she thinks that. That's an assumption. I can't believe he's arguing this so hard that I think it makes him look like a jackass. Actually, what was going on with Alex and whatever gun he had was called divine intervention because somehow or another, he barely missed Brandon, and I don't know what happened if the gun jammed or what here. But it's so fucked up to keep saying this. Oh, I know. And so it's just a fucking coincidence that she ends up dying of natural causes completely healthy. Wow.
Okay, and what is your name, ma'am?
My name is Tammy Daybell.
Okay, I will pass your information on to my deputies. We actually just had a previous call about this individual, so they're out in the area looking now.
Okay, yeah, I think it was my son-in-law who lived diagonal from us that called you guys already.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just wanted to make sure it got reported. So
Let's see. And what's your son-in-law's name?
Joseph Murray.
Okay, yep, it was him.
Okay.
So, all right, I have a deputy that will be out at your home here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We can agree then that the 911 call would speak for itself, right?
Correct. Having a rifle and shooting at her.
Having a rifle and shooting at her.
Having a rifle and pointing at her.
Is that what you heard?
Yes.
Okay, but I guess we can let the jury make a determination about what they heard, right?
Yes.
Now, we previously talked to, and Judge, I'm going to ask to publish 14A.
All right, do you have that with you?
I do, and it's already been admitted and accepted.
Okay, 14A may be published.
Now, Officer, you're looking at what's been marked as Exhibit 14A, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a big black round thing on the top of that gun. Do you know what that is?
That's a hopper.
Okay, and it's pretty distinct, right?
Yes.
Pretty clear to identify that it's a hopper on the top of a paintball gun, correct?
Yes.
So if someone is in a situation where they're looking at something and they're clearly able to determine that there's a hopper on the gun, this would be a situation where they'd be able to clearly see that there's a hopper, correct?
If they're clearly able to see that, then
Right.
yes.
Okay. So if someone through their testimony talks about being able to clearly see that there's a hopper on a gun, that's a distinguishing fact, that's a distinguishing feature of a paintball gun. Is that correct?
If they clearly see it, yes.
Yeah, and if they're able to identify the fact that a particular paintball gun has a hopper and they can identify the hopper, it's obviously they saw a hopper, right?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
But you spoke about it a little earlier where you said they're now designing paintball guns that look like rifles,
Yes.
and they're being very creative in doing that, correct?
Yes.
In fact, I would suggest to you that there are instances where people have manufactured paintball guns to make the scopes on a gun look like a hopper. Correct?
Are you suggesting that to me or asking?
Yeah, I'm asking you that.
Possibly.
Possibly. Okay. So if that were one of those special guns where they created a gun that had something on it that looked like a scope, someone could confuse the difference between a scope and a hopper, right?
Yes.
But if someone specifically says they saw a hopper on a gun, there's no
Objection, Your Honor. This is going to call for speculation.
Sustained.
clearly that was a picture of a hopper on the gun, right?
During the day, yes.
Yeah, and you're able to distinguish that very clearly, right?
In the daylight, yes.
Oh, you telling me that there's a difference? You wouldn't be able to tell that in the night on the back of a porch with a light on?
Objection,
Oh.
Your Honor. Argumentative.
Sustained. And strike the answer.
Are you aware that there are lights on the front of the garage of the Daybell residence?
I was aware on that last call you played that Tammy Daybell said it was dark outside.
Right. But you didn't hear anything about the fact that there were lights out there or that the garage and the driveway was illuminated, right?
I didn't hear any of that.
Okay. I didn't know if I heard an objection or not, Judge, to that.
Withdrawn.
But you did note that she identified it as a paintball gun, didn't she?
She used that with the rifle and gun.
Okay. And whooshing sound, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Judge, I believe that Exhibit 16 was previously admitted. If I could have the bailiff bring me Exhibit 16. And Judge, if I could just have a moment, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Officer, are you aware as part of your investigation that Tammy Daybell sent out a Facebook posting to what she described as the Friends of the Salem Ward? Do you recall looking at something like that?
I remember she sent something out on that, yes.
Okay. Okay. You don't have a recollection of what it said though, probably, correct?
Not exactly.
And Judge, could we publish Exhibit 16?
You may.
I have it ready to go, Judge, whenever the clerk is ready. Okay, I don't know if I can expand that or not, Judge. No. Are you able to read that, officer, on your monitor?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Would you read that email for me?
Something really weird just happened, and I want you to know so you can watch out. Had gone home and parked him out in our front driveway. As I was getting stuff out of the back seat, a guy wearing a ski mask was suddenly standing by the back of my car with a paintball gun. He shot at me several times, although I don't think it was loaded.
Okay, you can stop there. So again, and this email that you said you reviewed was to the Friends of the Salem Third Ward. Do you know what the Salem Third Ward is?
Are you referring to the Facebook or the email?
Facebook, the Facebook here that was sent out.
Okay. I'm not just a church ward,
Okay,
the Salem Third Ward.
okay. You've heard of that before? You've heard
Yes.
of the Salem Third Ward before?
Well, I'm assuming it's their church they go to out that way.
Okay, you don't know how large of a ward that is or how many members they communicate to, right?
I don't.
Okay, but you do know that she got on there at this point and discussed the incident that took place, correct?
Yes.
And did she ever use the term rifle in this Facebook posting?
No.
Did she ever use the word gun?
No.
But she did use the word paintball gun, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Judge, I'm done with that. Thank you. And Judge, I have, I don't. If I could just have a minute again, Judge, I apologize.
It's fine.
Now, Judge, I need the court to advise whether or not Exhibit 15 has been admitted or offered for admission.
We'll check. No.
And I guess I have to pull this out and Judge ask that the court, I think this is by stipulation of the parties. Exhibit 15 has been stipulated by the parties to be admitted, and I'd ask it to be marked and accepted with the court, Exhibit 15.
All right, I'll confirm with the state.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe that this is a segment of the data recovered from Tammy Daybell's phone, and the contents of her phone have been stipulated to.
Okay, so Exhibit 15 is offered and will be admitted.
Right, Queen?
Now, before I go into Exhibit 15,
That's called
officer,
sleeping with the
you
enemy,
discussed
huh?
that you did a lot of
Shit.
discovery and looking at what was the term you used? What?
Geofencing?
Geofencing. And when you're looking at phone records and emails and Facebook postings, sometimes there's a reference after the time that indicates the letters UTC. Are you familiar with what UTC means?
I've heard the term. I'm trying to think. I believe it's a couple hours off of certain time zones.
Okay. And are you aware that in Idaho, it's a universal time zone equation that they put together, right? So that the whole world is on the same time zone, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Right. And are you aware that Idaho is when there's a UTC, you have to actually subtract 6 hours from the time that's noted on a UTC. Does that sound about right?
I know you had to subtract, I'm not sure if it's 6 hours, but yes, I do know you had to subtract some hours.
Do you have any reason to believe that it's not 6 hours?
No.
Okay. Okay. Now, I'd like to go back to the call from Tammy Daybell. And if you don't remember, it's fine. But the call to 911, do you recall what time that call was made? Is there some kind of report you could refresh your recollection with quickly?
Well, I know there was two that came in, one from Joseph Ryan and Tammy. I believe hers was around 9:41.
Okay. Okay. And then hers was 9:41
I believe so.
or 9:51, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, so I guess I can't testify truly on that.
Okay. Okay. But it was clearly after 9:30 though.
Objection, Your Honor. The officer just said he couldn't testify to that.
Sustained.
Okay. Okay. Judge, I'd like to put up Exhibit 15 for publication.
You may publish.
I'm ready, Judge, whenever the clerk is. I'm showing it, Judge. I'm not sure what.
All right, we'll see if we could get someone to maybe take a look at.
Oh, I think we're there.
Okay.
I just had to wiggle a little. I had to wiggle the cords a little bit. Okay. So can you see that from your screen, officer?
Yes.
Okay. And I would represent to you that this was off of Tammy Daybell's account, stipulated by the parties as a retrieval of her Google searches. Can you read the very first one?
Search for a paintball gun,
Okay,
paintball
and then
guns.
we talked about the UTC and well, I guess I suggested it was 6 hours. You didn't really specify, but would you read October, the date of when that was done, that Google search was done?
October 10th, 2019.
Okay, October 10th, 2019. And the time on that, the UTC time would be what?
If it is 6 hours, it would be 9:29.
On the 18th.
Correct.
Okay.
On the 10th.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. All right. So the day that this incident took place was what?
October 9th.
Okay. And the UTC, if it goes back 6 hours from AM at 3:29 AM on the 10th, going back
It
6
wasn't a
hours,
paintball gun.
wouldn't that put us at 9:30 on the 9th?
She just thought that.
Yes.
Okay.
She
at
didn't know.
Well,
She
actually,
didn't
let's
know
be
someone
clear,
was trying to kill her.
9:29 on the 9th, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at 9:29 on the 9th of October, there was a Google search by Tammy Daybell searching out paintball guns, correct?
Correct.
Now, I don't remember seeing a discussion with Officer Coulter in his, I guess it was his second report, where he talked about that Tammy Daybell did a Google search on paintball guns.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying.
Did you see that?
Wait. Objection pending, it's sustained.
Did you see a reference in Officer Coulter's second report about Google searches at 9:29 on the 9th of October?
No.
Okay, well, your previous testimony was that Tammy Daybell made a 911 call sometime 9:41 is what you recalled. But the Google search occurred at 9:29. Is that what you see?
Yes.
So what we can gather from that is that Tammy Daybell, after this incident, did a search of paintball guns and then 10 minutes later called 911, right?
Yes.
Do you remember what the date of the Facebook posting was when she posted that Facebook?
I do not recall that date.
Okay. And then let's move down a little bit. The next one.
Search for an airsoft guns,
And again, the time.
October 10th, 2019 at 3:29.
So basically, if we go back to UTC time, we're back at around 9:30 again, right?
Yes.
So her Google searches at that point, and just for everybody's edification, we don't need to go down the other ones because they're not relevant to this, but the first two, the first one was a paintball gun search at 9:29, right?
Yes.
Then she looked for an airsoft gun search at 9:29, right?
Yes.
Did she ever look for a rifle?
She did not.
Did she ever look at any other shotgun?
She did not.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Nobody was there from your agency at the time of this incident with Tammy Daybell and this person. Is that correct? That she was allegedly shot at,
We responded to that.
but nobody was
Yeah.
there when it occurred.
Correct.
And in fact, Chad wasn't there either, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Well, you know from the report that Tammy talked about Chad and Garth coming out afterwards, correct?
Yes.
And there's no indication at the time of this occurrence that there was anybody other than a masked man and Tammy Daybell. Is that right?
And in Tammy's email, Chad and Garth.
Well, Chad and Garth were inside the house, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at the time of this alleged shooting, the two people would be a masked man and Tammy Daybell. Would that be fair?
Outside of the residence, yes.
Okay. So the best person to determine what type of instrument this was would be one of the people who was there at the time, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Your Honor, may I word aye or nay of objection?
Well, just the way that question was phrased, I'm overruling that. It was just of the two. Go ahead and re-ask the question, Mr. Pryor.
The best person to determine what type of instrument that was would have been Tammy Daybell, correct?
One of the-
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds.
It calls for speculation. May I have word aye or nay of objection?
Go ahead.
Detective Kamanu, did you ever have an opportunity to speak with Tammy Daybell?
No.
Did you ever determine her knowledge of firearms?
No.
Do you know her experience with paintball guns?
No.
Do you know her experience with firearms?
No.
So do you know if she'd be able to tell the difference?
No.
Your Honor, I'd object to that. It calls for speculation.
All right. Well, I am going to overrule it on the speculation objection, but of course you'll be able to redirect Ms. Blake.
Yeah. So again, you actually corrected me. There are two people there that would know what type of instrument that would do. Two people that would be the best people to identify what kind of instrument, correct?
Correct. One of the two.
Yeah, the person in the ski mask would be one. We don't know who that was, right?
Correct.
And Tammy Daybell.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Officer, or Judge, I'd like to now go through on the Elmo Exhibit 107, if I could.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll allow that to be published. It's already been admitted.
And obviously, during your talk with the prosecuting attorney, this has already been admitted, and you went through that. You recall that, right?
Yes.
Now, as part of your examination, you provided records from Fremont County Sportsman's Club, right?
Yes.
And you did the start date of sometime of 10/16, is that right? Is that what you recall?
The start date of,
When the documents that you provided to the prosecuting attorney, the first entry on there, it looks to be about 10/16. Am I
Right. He
mistaken?
keeps trying to make
I'd have
them
to relook
say
at
what
those.
he
Judge,
wants
Can we
them to
show this to
say.
the witness to refresh his recollection? When you're done, just hand it back.
Fuck.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And Your Honor, may the state know what's being shown to the witness?
Which exhibit did you just
It's
reference?
their exhibit of the entries to the visits to the Sportsman's, I don't want to mistake the name of the organization, the Sportsman's Gun Club.
Thank you.
That is exhibit 390A. I'm sorry, 396A.
Okay, and if I could have that back. Now I'm looking at this exhibit and it appears that it starts on 10/16. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay, now, did you happen to take the time to look at the entries prior to that time?
Prior to 10/16, yes.
You did.
Yes,
And Alex Cox arrived in Idaho from what you learned from your investigation about when?
on the 1st of September.
So on the 1st of September. So after arriving, as part of your investigation, what did you discover from September 1st to October 15th in terms of the number of times that Alex Cox visited the gun range?
Give those dates one more time.
September 1st we'll just make it October 15th.
So Alex Cox, from my knowledge, was at the gun range in St. Anthony from October 7th to the 16th.
Okay. And you don't have any entries of him being there in September?
Not at the Fremont County gun range, no.
Do you have him at any other gun range in the month of September?
I believe there were some in Rexburg, Idaho.
Okay. And when you say some, that would indicate that there were more than 2 or 3. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So he'd had a habit. You also had an opportunity to review the searches of Alex Cox on his computer as well, correct?
I don't believe on his computer.
You
no.
didn't review any of that?
I reviewed some of the Homer J. Maximus. I'm not sure if that was off of his computer or not.
Okay. But as part of the Homer J. Maximus, are you aware that Alex Cox had been looking at weapons as early as 2017?
I was not aware of that early, no.
Okay. Well, how early were you aware of when he was looking at weapons?
September, October of 2019.
And that's because that's when you went, that was your reference point. September 1st is when you started your reference point, right?
What I looked at, yes.
Yeah. So you didn't really go back and look at all of the searches that Alex Cox conducted prior to September of 2019, right?
I did not.
Okay. Okay. But you are aware that Alex Cox has a history of engaging in the use of guns or other weapons on folks, right?
Objection, Your Honor. States facts not in evidence.
Overruled.
Are you aware, and I'll rephrase that, you're aware of the situation regarding Brandon Boudreaux, right?
Yes,
And you're aware that it's alleged that Alex Cox at a long distance shot at Brandon Boudreaux, correct?
yes,
Okay. And you're aware of Charles Vallow, correct?
yes,
And you're aware that Alex Cox took a gun and at close range murdered Charles Vallow, correct?
yes,
And you're also aware that in both of those instances, Chad Daybell has not been criminally implicated in either of those cases. Is that correct?
yes,
And Chad Daybell has not been charged in either of those cases. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. Are you aware of any other instances where Alex Cox engaged in conduct towards other people with the use of any kind of a weapon?
Of a firearm?
Any kind of a weapon?
I know that there was an incident with Lori's.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Yes.
Why is he acting like he knows about, he's trying to blame it all on Lori and Alex. So why is he trying so hard to act like this didn't happen? I just don't get it. I think that makes it look worse. So the only people they weren't going to kill was Tammy? Exactly, Canine. That's what I've been saying. I think it meets that. Oh my God. I'm sorry. That's just so funny the way you said that. I sneezed 12 times today. Oh my God. My ex-husband used to sneeze all the time, go into sneezing fits. It made me fucking irritated as shit.
To any gun ranges when he was living in Arizona.
You know what? I just hate Pryor's voice. I really do. And his tone, I just can't. It is so dismissive, so condescending. I can't handle being talked to like that. I never sneeze just once. It's always an episode. Oh. Oh my God, Gerri, you're too Oh my God. Oh my God, that's funny.
All right, thank you, counsel. We took up a evidentiary ruling outside the presence of the jurors. Mr. Pryor, you may continue with your cross-examination.
So we talked a little bit about the fact that you're aware that Alex visited the gun range in September of 2019, right?
Yes,
You're not aware of whether he had visited or went to any gun ranges when he was living in Arizona 6 months prior. You didn't look into that. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. Now, officer, on your, this will be tricky. On your Homer J. Maximus, you talked about a number of searches. Did you recall that, correct?
Yes,
Oops, Judge, this is the Elmo. I'm sorry.
And what is it you're publishing?
Uh,
Okay. This is part of exhibit 107B.
And this talked a little bit about the gun and the distance and everything else, correct?
yes,
That's
And
funny, Gerri.
What I'm wondering about is that the first one that says the Grendel drop 100 to 200 yards, correct?
yes,
Okay, now Tammy Daybell's driveway, and you described it as the distance between the end of the desk there and towards this first section here, correct?
yes,
And for a clear record, we're 30 to 40 feet.
sure.
Okay. Now, if we do math and look at 100 yards, how many feet is 100 yards? Do you know?
Well, there's,
I can help if you'd
Yeah.
like.
yeah, help me out.
Yeah, me too. I had to look at, no, I didn't have to look it up. It's 3 feet per yard.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I know you weren't, that's not fair. It's 3 feet per yard. Okay, you know
Yes.
that, right? So if we're looking at a Grendel drop, we start at 300 feet, right?
Okay.
And then if we go to 200 yards, we go to 600 feet. Would that be fair?
Yes,
Now, none of those feet distances really apply to Tammy Daybell's driveway, right?
not her driveway.
Okay. And then the 100 yards to 300 yards is the same thing, 300 feet to 900 feet, correct?
Yes,
So obviously what he was looking at this point is the distance on how to put a rifle and the amount of drop after you shoot it, that the bullet drops after a certain distance, right?
yes.
And when was this in October?
This was searched October 8th.
Okay. And, you know, when I looked at this, I was curious, is there any indication that Alex Cox purchased a big game hunting license in October?
That I am unaware of.
Okay. And would you agree with me that October is also hunting season for various big game?
It is hunting season, yes.
Okay. And then he looked at, and you could use a Grendel for a hunting gun. Is that correct?
You could, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And if you were to purchase pants and just trying to just conceal yourself while you were out hunting, it wouldn't be inappropriate to buy different various suits to conceal yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. I'm grateful to whoever put the tape up there. And then we go to October 10th. How to prepare your AR for cold weather. Now, if you're out shooting and you're out hunting, and I'm not suggesting we use an AR for hunting, but in October, when you're out hunting, that's a cold time to go hunting, isn't it?
Yes, it could be cold.
Okay. Okay. And then we talked a little bit about the ghillie suit, and potentially that could be something that could be used as a hunting outfit when you're out in the game hunting, right?
Could be, yes.
Yeah. Well, you can buy those at Sportsman's Warehouse or Cabela's or any of those stores, right?
Yes,
You looked into that, and that's where you get them, right?
you can, yes.
Yeah, Sportsman stores for outdoor activities in October, right? Right?
Yes, you can buy them there.
Okay. 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 Now, what we did is then we looked at a FBI simulation of shooting a 5.56 through car doors and walls. And a 5.56 is a type of a bullet, right?
Yes,
Okay. And that's a specific bullet. And what it appears is there was a search to see what kind of a bullet would go through car doors and walls, correct?
yes,
And then you would also see what kind of caliber under that would penetrate a windshield, correct?
yes,
Now, we know that the allegations about Alex Cox is that he took a shot at Brandon Boudreaux, correct?
yes,
And in relation to Lori Vallow, Brandon Boudreaux was Lori Vallow's, no, Melanie Pulowski was Lori Vallow's niece, right?
yes,
And she was married to Brandon Boudreaux.
yes,
So Brandon Boudreaux was the male spouse of Alex Cox's niece, Melanie Pulowski, right? Correct?
yes,
Okay. So Alex Cox took a shot at the male member of the relationship between Melanie, Lori's family, and the male, right?
yes,
And then Alex Cox murdered husband number 4 by taking a gun and shooting him at close range. And that was Lori Vallow's husband number 4, correct?
I'm not sure what husband it was.
Okay. Well, she's had 5, right?
Okay,
Well, do you know that?
I'm not 100% sure on
Oh,
how.
that's okay. That's okay. Okay. So, but we do know that Alex Cox is accused of murdering Charles Vallow, correct?
Yes,
Now, when I go down, you testified that Chad Daybell, well, before we get that, it would seem that, would you agree with me that it would seem that the searches here, the Google searches, would suggest that Alex Cox is looking at shooting at some sort of a Dodge Dakota vehicle. Would you agree with me?
yes.
And it looks like it wasn't for target practice. It was to do some harm, correct?
I don't know what his intent was, but it's not target practice, I
Right.
would say.
Well, it wouldn't be target practice if you're trying to penetrate a windshield, is it?
No,
And it isn't target practice if you're asking how thick is the 22 gauge steel on a Dodge Dakota, right?
no,
So apparently what Alex Cox had in mind was to do some harm for whoever is driving a Dodge Dakota, correct?
yes,
Are you aware that Chad Daybell was the one driving the Dodge Dakota?
Objection, Your Honor, facts not in evidence.
Same.
Are you aware of the 2 vehicles that Chad and Tammy Daybell owned?
I'm aware of a Dodge Dakota that was registered to both of them.
Right. But you don't have any specific information about whether or not it was Chad who was the primary driver of the Dodge Dakota, right?
I don't have any facts that he was a primary driver now.
Okay. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Now, as part of your investigation, you talked a little bit about phone records, right? Phone records. Alex's records in terms of his location, right?
On Homer J. Maximus device.
Okay,
yes.
and you looked at that. What was the device that you were reviewing to determine that?
I'm not sure what device that was.
Okay, okay. All right, then we'll save that for another day. Now, Judge, previously, we stipulated and the court entered exhibit number 14. I'd like the court's permission to go over Exhibit 14 with the witness.
All right, has that previously been admitted?
Judge, I have it here with a stamp on it. I think we had already established
Yes, Your Honor. I think,
and stipulated to it, Judge. I'm sorry.
and the state had reviewed this. It's my understanding these are the extracts from Tammy Daybell's phone or contain extracts. I think it's actually a police report referencing those extracts from her phone.
Okay, it's been admitted, so it may be published.
If I could just have a moment, Judge, I'm sorry.
This Homer J. Maximus is irritating to me.
Judge, I'm ready when.
Your Honor, I hate to do this, but can we briefly approach?
Yes.
Predominantly in most religions, there's a reference to light and dark, right?
I can't testify that. 'Cause I
Okay.
don't know all the religions.
Okay, and then the religious practice that these folks practice, that Tammy and the children and Chad practices of what faith?
LDS.
Okay, okay. Then we go on and if you would,
Right,
I'll
that
take a
great
look at the next one where it
big
says, "During
portal in
Chad's walks,
hell.
camera was not
Yep.
working and Tammy informed him that his camera was cursed and Dad was removing it," right?
Yes.
Okay. In more chats, Mark asked if anything was found or notable in him when he was body coded. I'm not sure what body coded means. Do you have any knowledge of what being a body or body coded talks about?
No.
Okay. Okay. But it was Mark who was talking about the body coding. Would that be your assessment?
Yes.
Okay. And then Tammy responds, "You has a lot of weapons, negative chords and curses, plus trapped emotions. We cleared out quite a bit. We'll do that more regularly for you." So second to the last sentence says, "We cleared it out," right?
Yes.
Would you believe that was Tammy and Chad who were clearing out these negative chords and curses?
In this email, yes.
Okay. And then we'll do that more regularly for you. And again, we'll do that more regularly for you. That implies that it was both Tammy and Chad talking about helping them clear out these weapons, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then we go down to the next one and it starts with on another chat. Chad said, "Mom and I taught 12-year-old Sunday school yesterday. Canyon Scott's actions confirmed he is 4.2 dark." You see that?
Yes.
Do you have any knowledge as to whether Canyon Scott is dead or has been murdered or any investigation into that kind of a matter?
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. And do you know who Canyon Scott is?
I do not.
Okay. But obviously, it's someone who attends church or attends Sunday school where Chad and Tammy went to their Sunday school, right?
Yes.
So we could presume that it was someone in Fremont or Madison County, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then it goes on, "I will enjoy watching his growth to world terror and domination." And then Emma replies, "I like Canyon though." I'll slow down. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The next line is, "I will enjoy watching his growth to world terror and domination," right?
Yes.
Emma replies, "I like Canyon though." Tammy and Chad reply, "Unfortunately, he's already influencing Will Dowling." Who's Will Dowling? Do you know?
I do not.
Okay. Then Mark goes, "I like Jose I can't pronounce that last name, Ojeda also." Then Mark says, "Darkness is interesting." And then Tammy and Chad both say, "Maybe they are influencing you too. They are charming," right?
Yes.
So we don't have any information about Jose Ojeda or anything about him, any criminal activity associated to his demise, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Judge, it's 12 o'clock. Judge, it's 12 o'clock. I don't know. This may take a while.
Sure.
It's up to the court.
Yeah, let's
obviously.
take our lunch recess. We try to do that at noon for timing of things, so that'll work out well. We are stopping right here about noon. We'll try to resume further testimony, 1:00, and take the lunch break now.
And Judge, may I leave my stuff up here?
Yeah, we'll secure the courtroom and you can leave that there, Mr.
Thank you,
Clerk.
Your Honor.
All right, please.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Do you guys remember that night we were talking about Heaven's Gate? Oh God, that was funny. Yeah, but all this talk is so weird. Exactly right. Gerri, yep. Can't get away from it with God. That ain't gonna cut it. Oh, fucking Humpty Dumpty. Dipshit. Hey, Legs. Yeah, I'm really sorry, you guys. I do nod off sometimes. I straight fell asleep. Woke up, I'm like, what the fuck's going on? But I can definitely fly through this.
Okay. Then we're going to June 30th of 2019. Is that right?
Yes.
And then let me read this and then I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Another adventure we had this week involves a raccoon. Last year we had skunks. This year a raccoon. We thought stray cats were getting into the cat food, but nope. Garth saw it one night and it was a raccoon. We borrowed a little trap from Matt Price, but when Garth went out
I know, I'm
check it out
sorry.
that night, the raccoon ran up the tree by the trap.
Oh my
It
God.
was huge.
Shit.
No way it was going to fit in the trap. It was larger than Chase and had really long teeth. Garth kept his flashlight on it and called us in the house. Dad got his gun. He shot it out of the tree, then shot it again as it tried to run across the yard. We now have a raccoon buried in the compost heap. Something else got into a cat food a couple of nights ago, so we borrowed a larger trap from Matt. We didn't catch anything last night, so we'll see if we get anything tonight. If we do catch anything, Matt asked us not to shoot it because he has a friend who will use whatever we catch to train dogs. Joel is, I think that's Nickel, told me they've got a couple of raccoons and skunks they've been trying to trap, and some coyotes have been eating chickens at houses over by Jordan Graham's house. In all, it's been a crazy year with wildlife. Do you see that?
Yes.
And could you identify the date when they're having this crazy year with wildlife?
June 30th, 2019.
Okay, and the allegation with Chad Daybell is that there was an email that the prosecutor has alleged may have a different meaning, but that was September 30th of 2019, correct? September of 2019, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm unaware of what email you're referring
Okay,
to.
well, would it be fair that the allegations are that they discovered JJ and Tylee's
Sorry,
body
I don't have one in
and that
this
they
room.
are presuming as part of your investigation that they were buried in Mr. Daybell's property in September of 2019?
Yes.
Okay, and there was some email by Chad Daybell that made mention of a raccoon. You recall that?
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Abstain.
So from what I gather, the allegations about the children being buried on Chad Daybell's property was the same year as
Oh,
this,
that's
this email as well,
hilarious.
correct?
Yes.
And we're on June 30th of 2019. And the allegations against Mr.
I love when
Daybell
Tragic
relate to
said
around September, sometime in September of 2019,
they
correct?
never said they're
Yes.
liable for
So,
your mouth.
2.5, 3 months later, there's at least two
You're thinking
references
about
about
that.
raccoons. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a reference that they buried this raccoon in a compost heap. Where's the compost heap on Mr. Daybell's property? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Legs,
Well,
I'm impressed. I am.
And then we go on to July 7th of 2019, right?
yes.
Here is the second raccoon. The first one was shot. Garth said this one is smaller than the first one. I like how the kittens are looking at him too. Okay, and that's from March 7th. And that's also relating to this raccoon issue. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And then we have a picture.
Oh my God.
Dad has lost a lot of weight.
Funny.
He just doesn't seem to eat much anymore, and he is exercising.
You're in
You see
rare
that,
form
right?
today, huh?
Yes.
Above that, is a
I love it.
Can you explain? Does that look like a trap?
Yes.
And somewhere in the back top of the picture, it looks like there's some sort of raccoon in it. Is that what you see?
That's what I'm trying to see. I
Okay.
see the kittens there.
I do. Okay. And the previous motion made mention of Tammy saying, here's a picture of the second raccoon. It's a smaller one. So
Would you like me to point it out? I just,
you did find it? Go ahead if you.
so
Oh my God,
it's kind of hard to
right?
tell. The raccoon is right there.
Okay. Is it, officer, is that raccoon in the trap?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay.
Jeez.
Then we go down.
Can
And
you pay my
we have a
bill? I'm
picture of Chad
taking
and
someone
Tammy,
out to
right?
dinner.
Yes.
And again, not the
She's
full email, but
fucking
your perception
insane,
is that
I
there's
swear.
nothing there that was relevant to this investigation,
She's
right?
a
Yes.
Okay, and then does that appear to be the side of
Oh
the
my God.
house?
Appears to be the back of the house, I believe.
Okay. And from the email, that would be a picture of July 7th of 2019.
I'd have to look at the first page. Yes.
Okay, thank you. August 4th of 2019. Dad is in Arizona. He's speaking to a small group on Sunday night and at a girls' camp on Monday night. He flies home on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
And that had reference to the August 4th meeting with Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow and all of the ladies who met Sunday at a girls' meeting at Lori Vallow's house. Is that what that was about?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, okay. But that's not the full email. But again, it's, you determined there wasn't any relevance to anything else. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then we go on again, and we talk about from Tammy to Mark, again, Tammy Daybell to Mark on September 15th of 2019, right?
Yes.
And this was about a month before Tammy passed away. Would that be fair?
Close to, yes.
Okay. And she says, this was taken on Saturday. Joe planted potatoes in his garden. I had been sick in bed all day with a really bad cold, but I put on a hat and went over to pose for this picture, so it looks like I'm really a real Idahoan. But I went right back to bed after we took it. I'm still sick today, and my nose won't stop running. I will go to work tomorrow, though, because I am helping with testing, and getting sub work would be more trouble than it was worth, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's some mention of continue whining. I burned my arm today when taking some rolls out of the oven, right?
Yes.
And the relevance of this is that it was just mentioning that 3 weeks before 3 weeks before Tammy passed away, she was sick for one day and basically was sick the entire next day and just got up and made herself put on a good face and made herself and go back to work, right?
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. I don't hear.
She didn't have cancer.
She wasn't feeling well that day, right?
Correct.
She wasn't
It
feeling
appears
well.
that she was sick the following day, right?
Yes.
She spent a significant
Oh,
amount
I
of time in bed,
cannot.
Yes.
and she put on the courage to go to work on Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the one, your mom came to visit us Friday night and Saturday morning. Under orders from Grandma Cooper, I'll let her tell the story. I'm not, what's the relevance of that?
So the relevance to that is from Ron Douglas to Mark, which
Okay.
Ron Douglas is Mark's grandpa.
Okay,
Through our investigation, Tammy did not drive very far alone. And so it was important enough for Ron, the grandpa, to email Mark and say, hey, your mom came to visit us, which they live in Utah, which is 3.5 hours away. And she drove all by herself.
okay. And this was October 6th of 2019, right?
Correct.
And you were aware that the reason Tammy Daybell didn't drive by herself is because of some medical concerns about her balance and.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. Facts not in evidence. Move to strike.
Sustained.
Are you aware that the reason Tammy Daybell didn't drive is because of some medical concerns she had for herself?
No, I am not.
Okay. I went down to Springfield by myself, October 6th. I drove there by myself and then drove home by myself. I'm a big girl now. I can tell you more about this in a bit, right?
Yes.
So by your indications, you're suggesting on October 6th, 13 days before her death, 12 days before her death, that she was able to drive. Is that what this is about?
That's what she's emailing Mark, yes.
And was there any indication that prior to that time she didn't drive or that she was concerned about driving?
Long distances, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, and this again touches on I think we talked about this previously about the Wednesday during the day with Reagan Price and the person who took her dog. And that leads into what we originally started with. Would that be fair?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. And then there's one final email that talks about Matt Price sending audiobooks for Tammy to listen to, right?
yes.
And that was for her trip?
Tammy sent those, I believe, to Matt Price with codes to get into the audio book.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay, thank you. And if I could just have a minute, Judge, thank you.
You may.
He needs to quit having a minute. He really does.
So again, he was with Lori on August 4th of 2019.
Yes,
Do you recall when Charles Vallow was killed?
July 11, 2019.
There was an email also shown that was from Tammy to Mark on September 15th of 2019, where Tammy references having a cold. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And Tammy indicated she was in bed for a few days,
yes,
and that was in September.
yes.
Any similar email message to Mark in October about Tammy being sick?
No,
Then you're asked about some messages on October 6th, one from Ron Douglas to Mark and one from Tammy to Mark about Tammy visiting Springville, Utah. Do you recall those?
yes,
Through your investigation, did you learn anything about Tammy having a medical concern that kept her from driving?
no,
Through your investigation, did you learn who encouraged her to go to Springville that weekend?
yes.
And who was that?
Chad Daybell.
And circling back, Detective, do you recall the email, you've been shown it by both myself and defense counsel, that was from Tammy to Mark about the attempted shooting?
Yes,
And you were asked some questions about Regan Price and Tammy mentioning some things Regan had shared with her about a lady trying to steal Regan's dog. Do you recall that?
yes,
Regan described a lady trying to steal her dog, correct?
yes.
Did Regan ever mention the lady having a firearm?
No,
Did Regan ever mention the lady being dressed all in black?
no.
You were asked quite a bit about the Daybell's driveway. How many driveways are at the Daybell residence?
2,
And you were asked about a longer driveway. Would you consider that the front or back driveway or side driveway?
the back driveway is a very longer driveway compared to the front driveway.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask to be handed States Exhibit 291.
Very well.
And Your Honor, may I publish?
You may.
And we've looked at this exhibit a couple times, but in that second paragraph, can you see which driveway Tammy came into that day?
She backed into the front driveway.
Is the front driveway that long?
It's, like I discussed earlier, about 2 car lengths.
And then is there a driveway that's even longer than that?
Yes,
And how long is the other driveway car lengths, if you could estimate? Message, put it back up. In that second paragraph, do you see an indication of what time of day this occurred?
9:15.
And that would be referring to PM.
Yes, that's when the call came in around that time.
And again, you're from the Fremont County area. Correct?
Yes,
And October's in Fremont County about 9 PM. Is it still light out generally?
it's usually getting about dusk.
Do you recall reviewing? Let me back up. Would it surprise you to learn that there was no report by Deputy Cannon where he referenced having searched for paintball guns with Tammy Daybell?
Would it surprise me that there was no search with that?
That there was no Google search done for paintball guns?
Overruled.
No.
If Deputy Cannon had indicated that he never searched for paintball guns with Tammy Daybell, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No.
I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but do you know how familiar Tammy Daybell was with firearms?
I do not know how familiar she was with them.
And council talked about some searches that were done by an email associated with Tammy Daybell regarding a paintball gun and an airsoft gun. Do you recall those?
Yes.
From your review of the October 9th investigation, did Tammy Daybell ever produce any photo saying this is the firearm?
No, she did not.
And yet she didn't do any search for a rifle, did she, that you're aware of?
No.
Are there various type of paintball guns in your experience?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask to have the witness shown States Exhibit 282.
And Judge, I believe this is the image that we stipulated to council. Is that correct?
It is, Your Honor, and I do have a courtesy copy for defense counsel that's now been marked, a courtesy copy for Your Honor and a copy for the court.
All right, thank you, counsel.
Thank you.
I just want to object one time for no reason.
And Detective, have you seen this image before?
Yes.
And that top image there, is that the Grendel 6.5 that we've earlier referenced?
Yes, it is.
And Your Honor, I would move for the admission of States Exhibit 282.
Again, Judge, that was by stipulation of the parties, so
right.
I'm not having an objection to it.
Very well. Without objection, Exhibit 282 is admitted.
And Your Honor, I would ask permission to publish.
You may.
And Detective Counsel showed you an image of one type of paintball gun. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that is just one type?
Yes.
And you'd indicated that they make paintball guns that look similar to an assault rifle.
Yes.
Right. I want to object on the grounds that he's acting like a complete dickhead.
And again, that top image is the firearm that was
nose.
seized from an apartment associated with Alex Cox. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the bottom one, it's marked example. To be clear, this firearm was never located. Is that correct?
That is correct. This was not located.
Can you tell us what we're seeing in that bottom photo?
So this bottom photo right here is a Tipman paintball gun with the Tipman. Yeah. On the top is a hopper. On the back has a collapsible stock. And then your barrel.
And Your Honor, the state would ask to publish States Exhibit 281C that's already been admitted. If
You
I
may
could be
publish.
handed that. And Detective, this is a close-up, again, of the front part of that Grendel 6.5. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if the firearm was pointing at someone, this may be a vantage point that of what they see.
Yes.
And Detective, again, Alex was in the area of the Daybell residence earlier in the day on October 9th. Is that correct?
Yes,
And then he was also in the area about 2.6 miles away the night before Tammy was pronounced dead. Is that correct?
yes,
And counsel talked to you about whooshing and popping sounds from paintball guns. If a gun misfires, will it make a sound?
it depends what kind of misfire or jam it may have.
Hey, Tough, how
Are there
doing?
various sounds that could, would the sound of a AR be muffled or different if it had a silencer on it?
Yes,
And counsel talked to you about Tammy being pretty close to the gun. She describes the gun as right behind her and she turns around and he's there, correct?
correct.
And we talked earlier about some searches done on the Homer J. Maximus account about a drop.
Yes,
If you're sighting your gun, and correct me if I'm using the wrong language here, if you're sighting a gun or trying to adjust it to fire a certain distance, is that different if it's a short distance versus a long distance?
yes,
So if you'd been further away and moved closer, would it be sighted in different?
yes, could be.
And counsel talked to you about a bipolar teenager mentioned in the email from Tammy to Mark, correct?
Yes,
Again, from your review of October 9th, were there any reports of a bipolar teenager pointing a paintball gun at anyone?
no, not that I'm aware of.
Any reports of someone other than Tammy Daybell? Any reports of anyone else coming face to face with a masked gunman?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And
Oh, I'm sorry, Tough.
do you,
Oh, gosh.
trying to make sure I'm referencing the correct exhibit? And Your Honor, may I have State's Exhibit 291 again, please?
Yes.
And may I also have Defense Exhibit 16? Yes, it is State's Exhibit 291 and Defense Exhibit 16. And I guess while I'm at it, I forget the exhibit number, but the second call into dispatch by Tammy Daybell.
32B.
232B, Your Honor. And Your Honor, may I have permission to publish Defense Exhibit 16?
Yes.
Your Honor, defense screen just went blank. Oh, sorry, it popped up.
The HDMI does not like my computer.
Judge, if the court would prefer to take a short break now and we could do the early afternoon break.
Well, I think we'll get this sorted out pretty quickly here.
October 9, 2019, 21 hours, 50 minutes, 43 seconds.
In what direction he was going?
He went behind my house and it's so dark out there, and I was in the house and got my husband and son, and then they went out and looked and he was long gone by then. So he was on the north side of my house is where he went to get away.
Okay.
He didn't say anything, or he just kept like he was holding the gun like he was, had a rifle and was shooting at me. So, but nothing came out of the gun either, so I don't think it was loaded.
Okay, what is your name?
My name is Tammy.
I'm going to stop it right there. Did you hear on there where she says holding the gun like he had a rifle and shooting at me, but nothing came out?
Yes, I did.
Does that indicate more than someone just pointing a gun?
Yes, it does.
And counsel talked to you a little bit about some of those searches associated with Homer J. Maximus. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And he talked to you about October being hunting season.
Yes.
Would shooting through a windshield or shooting through a Dodge Dakota generally have anything to do with hunting?
No.
Through the investigation, did you become aware that Chad had deemed Alex to be Lori's protector?
Yes, I did.
After Alex shot Charles on July 11th of 2019, did Chad and Lori maintain a relationship to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I did.
In fact, we saw in an email, and I think you referenced it, Chad was down there on August 4th, 2019, just maybe about 3 weeks after Charles was shot and killed by Alex Cox.
Yes, he was.
Would that lead you to believe that Chad was scared of Alex Cox?
No.
Lead you to believe Chad was scared of Lori Vallow?
No.
Are you aware of any report taken by Fremont County where Chad Daybell reported that he was scared of anyone?
No, I am not aware.
Are you aware of Chad ever reporting anyone tried to shoot at him?
No.
And again, through the investigation, what was the connection between Alex Cox and Tammy Daybell?
Chad Daybell.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake.
Judge, I would like an opportunity to clarify the driveway, and then counsel went on about the relationship between Alex and Chad Daybell, and I'd like an opportunity to at least touch on that.
I'll allow some limited recross on those two issues,
Judge.
Mr. Pryor.
Officer Counsel put up the Facebook posting by Tammy Daybell, and it describes the front driveway. Do you recall that?
The Facebook, I don't recall if that said the front driveway.
Judge, can I?
I'm going to email it.
What the fuck does that
Sorry.
even gonna
That's
do?
okay. I'm gonna have to have permission to go get my
Oh my
computer, Judge,
God.
and bring up that. May I have permission to go back and get my computer?
Yes.
What? What does that have to do with anything?
Exhibit 6.
Oh my God. Wow.
Thank you. My turn now. I'm not ready yet, Judge.
Oh my God. Yes, definitely be safe, legs.
I think I'm ready now, Judge.
All right. You can publish that.
Okay, and I apologize. I can't get this to widen on me, Judge, but officer, can you read that if you look at your monitor?
Yes, I can, and it does say the front driveway.
Okay, and I'm sorry we had to go through that with all that time, but I wanted to make sure. And Judge, that's all I have for this.
Okay, thank you.
So there is no dispute that this was the front driveway, correct?
Correct.
And again, the front driveway is a very short driveway compared to the one in the back, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and further, the distance between the front of the house and where the car was backed up, that even shortens the distance even more, correct?
Yes.
And it would be unusual to use a rifle at such close range, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a weapon that you use at close range, correct?
Usually not.
In fact, a rifle is typically used when we're talking about hunting. That's long range, which is consistent with Mr. Cox talking about 100 and 300 yard shots, right?
Sometimes.
And in your experience, if you're really trying to hurt somebody at close range, you would probably use a handgun or a shotgun, right?
Well, I guess I misstated right there.
Okay.
Rifles can be used at close range, close
Okay.
quarter combats,
Okay.
SWAT stuff. So
Okay.
yes, they can be used.
Okay. Now, the information you got about the Dodge Dakota, you recall that, right?
Yes.
And you talked about the fact that someone was talking about putting a bullet through the window of a Dodge Dakota.
Yes.
Someone trying to figure out what type of bullet it would take to pierce the side of a Dodge Dakota.
Yes.
Someone who would take what kind of a bullet would pierce the metal or the thickness of the metal on a Dodge Dakota.
Yes.
So it would seem with Mr. Daybell owning a Dodge Dakota that it seems that at least the target was someone in the Daybell family. Would that be fair?
That'd be fair to say. Yes.
Okay. And with the Homer J. Maximus account, is there any indication that Chad was shared all of the information on Alex Cox's Homer J. Maximus account?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Do you have any information to suggest that Mr. Daybell had access to the Homer J. Maximus account?
No, I do not.
Okay. So if Mr. Daybell didn't have access to the information in that account, do you have any other information that Mr. Daybell had knowledge that Alex Cox was looking for a way to shoot a Dodge Dakota that Mr. Daybell owned?
No.
Okay. Nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that will conclude then the testimony of Detective Kamanu. And he's testified twice now. Is he still, while he's the case?
You know what, though? I'm pretty sure that Homer J. Maximus did not go play a fucking ukulele in Hawaii. What was all this fucking shit for? Who did it all come down to being all about? Yeah. No. Homer J. Maximus died also. He is. He's fucking irritating. I want to know which one ended up in fucking Hawaii. Dick. My God. All right, we're going to get through this shiz right now. Bang.
Continuing with the state's case in chief, is the state prepared to call another witness this afternoon?
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Wixom.
Thank you. We would call Spencer Cook.
God, I hope there's not somebody else that's going to have to go through every fucking cold Tammy had. God forbid the fucking driveway again. What does that have to do with the price of rice? Fucking stupid.
I swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, before we start with testimony, I'll just inquire, because the court has its exclusionary order. Mr. Cook, have you been viewing at all any of the testimony in this case on the court's live stream or otherwise in the trial since it started?
No,
All right. Have you discussed with anyone else their testimony they've given in the case?
no.
Very well. With that, thank you for your confirmation of that. You can go ahead and inquire on direct, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, will you please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Spencer Cook, SpencerCook.
And Mr. Cook, what is it that you do for a living?
I'm the technology director at the Sugar Salem School District.
Is that the same school that Tammy Daybell worked at back in 2019?
Ooh, Tammy's school.
What
He likes to attack
can you
these.
explain to the
people, too.
jury in your role at work, what is it that you do specifically?
As a technology director, I'm in charge of all of the technology
I am
throughout the
kidding.
district. So that includes all of the schools from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And I'm in charge of the data, the anything that plugs into the wall, basically. So projectors, computers, network, security, cameras, email, communications, telephones.
Okay, thank you. And so you mentioned email. What do you have to do with respect to the email for the school?
Well, I maintain and manage the emails accounts for all of the employees and students at the district.
When you say manage the email accounts, what does that entail?
Well, we use Google apps for the email service, and so I maintain all of the accounts and make sure that users can log in and make sure they receive emails and send emails.
Do you also manage the email storage?
I do.
Could you explain to the jury what you do with the storage for the email system?
Sure. So we have the front-facing email Gmail account, and the users log in and out that. That's a completely separate setup that they use. And then I have a archiving server that maintains all email communications in and out from all accounts that we maintain. And that is only accessed by myself.
How long does the school keep emails?
We keep emails for 3 years.
And what about the users? Is there a school policy for how long a user might keep their email?
Users can keep their emails as long as they see fit. There's no limit to the amount of storage that they can keep. So if there's an email that they need that's important, then they're able to keep those emails.
Do you recall back in February of 2021 being contacted by law enforcement with respect to Tammy Daybell's email?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall what it was that they requested of you?
They were asking for emails that Tammy had received from anybody and anyone that would send an email to her email account. And they were looking for an email from Charles Vallow on a specific time frame. It was, I think, June 29th, 2019.
Were you able to retrieve that kind of an email?
Yeah, I was able to retrieve it from the archiving server.
Your Honor, at this time, the state has a proposed state's exhibit we've marked as 419, and I believe it's been stipulated that it can be entered. I can offer up 2 copies to the court.
All right. Has the defense been able to review 419? Any objection to its admission? Yeah, we'll have you review that first. Okay, so exhibit 419 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have permission to publish with the ILMO?
Yeah, I'll have the bailiff give you the exhibit for publishing.
I believe I'm just waiting for the clerk, Your Honor.
Yeah, we're looking at that again. Is that showing on the jurors monitors? Okay, there we go. Thank you.
I think that guy needs to help them with some technical shit.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, I'd like to call your attention to just the first paragraph of this exhibit. If you want to go ahead. Can you see it on your
I
screen?
see it on my screen, yes.
You mentioned an email that you retrieved in Tammy Daybell's email system.
Correct.
And the date again was what?
The June 29th of when the email was
Yes.
retrieved. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to call your attention to the first paragraph. If you will, go down to where there's a quote in there with the content of the email. Do you see the quote marks where it says Tammy, my name?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Will you just read the first two full sentences of that, please?
Sure. Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and yes, yep. You bet. Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. This is your work email, so I'll have to wait to send you the evidence. That is very disturbing.
And can you explain to the jury which email address was this sent to? What was Tammy's email?
Her email address was tdaybell@sugarsalem.com.
And what address did this come from?
It came from an email, charles.vallow@icloud.com.
In your work as the IT manager, can you explain to the jury, were you able to look into whether or not this email had been opened up?
Yeah, we, in the interview with law enforcement, we went into her account and we were able to find the email that was in her deleted folder. And it was there opened, and the email had been, the email address from Charles Vallow, the charlesvallow@icloud.com, had been put into the blocked category inside of Google. So any email that Lori would have, or that Lori, sorry, any email that Charles would have sent would have been blocked, any future emails. So they would not have been received.
When you did your search of the email system, were there any other emails to or from Charles Vallow?
No, they were not.
Your Honor, I don't think I have any further questions.
All right, cross-examination. Okay, so there will be no cross of the witness. Mr. Cook, thank you for coming in and providing your testimony. Is he released from any subpoena from the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
From the defense? Okay, well, that will conclude your testimony in the trial. Thank you for appearing today. You can go ahead and step down, and that will conclude your testimony. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's 3 o'clock. I discussed scheduling with counsel. They've got another, well, depending on who they call next, it's an inconvenient time to start with a next witness potentially. There's been a request that we conclude for the day. Let me just confirm from the state, is that still how the state's requesting we proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, and I know the defense is fine with that as well, so that is going to conclude our trial evidence for today. We'll start again with trial tomorrow. And while the jurors are here, counsel, perhaps we can just give them some indication. Is there some request with your scheduling that tomorrow being Friday that we stop sooner than the mid-afternoon?
The state's fine with that as well. We do have some witnesses coming in from out of town, so we're hoping to be able to get through them rather than hold them over the weekend. But I believe that would most likely just take the morning.
Okay, well, we'll see how things go. So no promises, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that tomorrow may not be a full day through the mid-afternoon. So with that, we will conclude for the day today. And again, as we break for the day, I'll remind the jurors to please follow the court's continuing admonishment to not investigate the case in any way, try to avoid any media coverage of the case, and do not discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. You can only do that once deliberations have started. So thank you for continuing to follow that instruction each day. We'll be in recess until tomorrow.
All right, please.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad it's over. I know, right? And they keep going, ending early. And didn't they say they're going to try to end early tomorrow? Whatever. My God. What up, Tough? I know. I got to come up with something fun rather than napping. But now that I've had a nice long nap, I think I'm going to see if Mr. Snotty wants to take me out or something. But Anyway, okay, I think I'm going to end this. Tomorrow, I think we're going to play Words on Stream, right? Are we good with that? Tomorrow night? Yes, you too, Queen. Thank you. I know, right? I feel like seeing if he wants to take me over to the casino for a little while. Oh, I would love that, Queen. Oh, that would be so sweet. Oh, I love it. I love it a lot. Yep, love you too. Okay, good night, everybody, or whatever is going on in your time zone. All right, thanks, guys. Sorry for my my buffoonery. And I will see you here tomorrow. Is Frazzled still here? Are you okay, Frazzled? I'll check on her. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. Love ya. Oh, that is a great idea. Sushi and Tito's. Now we're talking. Thanks, Canine. I like it a lot. Thanks, guys. Oh, okay, I see that. Oh, I caught it, Sicilian. Good job. Okay, good night. Bye.